Welcome back, dear listeners, to another journey into the shadows. Tonight, we're taking a long, winding road deep into the heart of South Carolina, a land of moss-draped oaks, creaking verandas, and crumbling plantations where whispers ride the wind long after midnight. These places are soaked in history, drenched in tragedy, and haunted by spirits who refuse to leave. Some whisper, some cry, and some appear in spectral form to the unlucky traveler who dares to step too close. Tonight, we'll explore the 25 most haunted plantations in South Carolina and uncover the stories that make them whisper in the dark. So sit back, turn the lights low, and prepare to wander where the past never truly rests. Boone Hall Plantation in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, is known for its picture-perfect rows of live oaks and its sprawling antebellum architecture, a scene so often captured in photographs and films that it has become iconic. By day, the plantation exudes charm and history, with tourists strolling along the oak-lined avenues, soaking in the beauty of the gardens and the grandeur of the mansion. Yet, as the sun sets and shadows lengthen across the fields, Boone Hall transforms into something far more unsettling, a place where the echoes of the past seem to linger in the cool night air, and where history refuses to remain silent. Visitors who have ventured onto the grounds after dark often recount experiences that defy explanation. Many describe hearing phantom voices carried on the wind, soft murmurs that rise and fall among the rows of oak trees. These whispers are sometimes indistinct, almost like fragments of conversation from centuries past, but other times, they are chillingly clear. Witnesses report hearing chants and songs, seemingly sung in unison, echoing across the fields where enslaved workers once toiled. The sounds are not constant, but appear unexpectedly, as if the plantation itself is choosing when to reveal the presence of the spirits still tethered to the land. The oak-lined avenue that leads to the main house is frequently the stage for ghostly encounters. Guests walking the drive at night describe sudden, inexplicable chills that make the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. The air feels heavier here, cooler than the surrounding night, and some travelers report feeling the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their movements. Whispers drift on the breeze, soft enough that a person must strain to hear, yet insistent enough to prompt a nervous glance over the shoulder. These voices, hauntingly close yet untouchable, often vanish when confronted directly, leaving a lingering sense of unease. Some have claimed to see figures moving through the fog that occasionally drifts across the grounds. These shapes are often described as fleeting shadows at the edge of vision, almost human in form, walking deliberately through the fields. A few witnesses insist they have glimpsed women and men, dressed in clothing reminiscent of the 18th and 19th centuries, working silently as they once did, tending crops that are no longer there. The figures do not react to human presence. They move as though the living are not part of their world, replaying moments of the past in a spectral loop that continues long after the plantation fell silent. Inside the mansion itself, guests report an equally unnerving atmosphere. Rooms that are empty in the daytime seem to take on a life of their own at night. Visitors have felt sudden drops in temperature, accompanied by the faintest creaks and whispers that seem to emanate from nowhere. Some have described hearing footsteps echoing through hallways when no one else is present, or doors opening and closing as if guided by invisible hands. The combination of sound and sensation creates an experience that is both tactile and psychological, leaving the living acutely aware that Boone Hall does not easily relinquish its secrets. Even the gardens, which are meticulously maintained and celebrated for their beauty, carry traces of the plantation's dark history after nightfall. Witnesses report hearing rustling leaves that cannot be attributed to wind, or the soft patter of steps along garden paths where no one walks. Occasionally, a faint, mournful singing drifts from the direction of the old slave quarters, a reminder of lives lived and lost in servitude. The garden, while tranquil by day, becomes an arena for the lingering grief and memories that have seeped into the very soil over centuries. Many believe that the haunting at Boone Hall is intrinsically tied to the history of the plantation itself. Constructed in the early 18th century and expanded over decades, The estate was home to generations of both plantation owners and enslaved families. Tragedy, toil, and unspoken suffering left an indelible mark on the land. The spirits of those who endured hardship here are thought to linger, bound not by malevolence but by the unresolved echoes of their lives. The whispers in the fields, the sudden chills, and the fleeting shadows all point to a presence that is deeply connected to the history and memory of the place. Occasionally, the hauntings are witnessed by more than one person at a time, lending credibility to the reports. Groups of visitors have described experiencing the same sudden drop in temperature or hearing the same soft chant carried by the night wind. Photographs taken at night sometimes reveal orbs of light or unexplained shadows that were not visible to the naked eye. Though skeptics may attribute these phenomena to natural explanations, mist, reflections, or imagination, the consistency and emotional intensity of the accounts suggest that Boone Hall holds something far more enigmatic. Some of the most chilling encounters occur along the edges of the old fields where the enslaved once labored. Visitors walking these areas after dusk often feel an overwhelming sense of sorrow, as if the air itself is thick with memory. Those who pause to listen sometimes swear they can hear distant, sorrowful voices, faintly calling, as if the spirits are aware of the living intruding upon their rest. The presence is subtle, rarely violent, but profoundly unnerving, reminding all who traverse the grounds that the past is never fully gone. Boone Hall Plantation is a place of stark contrasts. By day, it is a jewel of Southern architecture and horticulture, a snapshot of beauty and history. By night, it becomes a different realm altogether, a place where the lines between past and present blur, where whispers ride on the breeze and shadows replay long-forgotten labors. The plantation's charm is undeniable, but those who linger after dark are reminded that beauty often masks a darker story, one that continues to whisper through the oaks, the gardens, and the very soil itself. For those who venture onto Boone Hall after nightfall, the experience is unforgettable. The phantom voices, the sudden chills, and the fleeting apparitions create a sensation of walking through history while simultaneously stepping into the unknown. Guests often leave the plantation with a heightened awareness of the lives that came before, and an enduring respect for the unseen presence that watches from the shadows. Boone Hall is not just a place to sit, it's a place to feel, to sense the lingering weight of history, and to hear, if only for a moment, the whispers that echo through time. Visiting Boone Hall at night is to step into a world where history never sleeps, where the stories of the past live on in subtle sounds and fleeting shadows. The whispers of enslaved workers, the soft echo of footsteps, and the ghostly shapes moving among the trees serve as reminders that this plantation is more than its photographs, its gardens, and its grand halls. Boone Hall is alive with memory, and at night, those memories speak, urging anyone who passes through to remember, to listen, and perhaps to never look away from the shadows that still roam the land. Magnolia Plantation in Charleston, South Carolina, is renowned for its breathtaking gardens, centuries-old oaks, and the stately charm of its historic mansion. By day, visitors wander through its carefully cultivated flower beds, admire the tranquil lakes, and walk beneath tunnels of moss-draped trees. The air is filled with the fragrance of magnolias and camellias, and the sounds of birdsong and trickling fountains create an almost magical serenity. Yet, as the sun sinks behind the horizon and shadows stretch across the estate, Magnolia Plantation reveals a much darker presence, an undercurrent of whispers, movements, and sightings that have haunted the grounds for generations. Many guests who explore the plantation after dark report experiences that cannot be easily explained. One of the most common and unsettling accounts is of a spectral woman seen wandering along the pathways near the historic house. Witnesses describe her as tall and slender, dressed in a flowing gown reminiscent of the 18th or 19th century, the hem dragging along the gravel as she glides silently through the gardens. Her presence is fleeting, often visible only for a few seconds at a time, but it leaves an indelible impression. Some report seeing her pause as if observing them, only to vanish when approached. her figure dissolving into the shadows as if she were never there at all. The gardens themselves are frequently the stage for eerie experiences. While Magnolia is celebrated for its beauty, the lush foliage, dense undergrowth, and twisting paths create natural pockets of darkness where the senses can easily be deceived. Visitors have described hearing soft whispers in these hidden corners, voices carried by a breeze that seems to have a life of its own. The whispers are often indecipherable, hushed fragments of conversation, quiet laughter, or low murmurings that vanish when one strains to hear them more clearly. Some believe these sounds are echoes of the Plantations' long history, a residual memory of the lives once lived and labors once performed among these gardens. Ghostly apparitions at Magnolia are not limited to the spectral woman. Guests walking near the historic house late in the evening sometimes report seeing figures moving through windows, glimpses of silhouettes crossing dimly lit rooms. Others have felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched, as if unseen eyes are following every step along the garden paths. Some even claim that doors in the mansion itself move inexplicably, opening or closing without any human touch, accompanied by faint creaks and the soft sigh of the old building settling into its foundations. Several accounts also describe sudden chills, an abrupt drop in temperature that seems concentrated in specific areas of the gardens or near the house. Walkers along the tree-lined avenues often feel a draft or a coolness that cannot be explained by wind alone. It is in these moments that the whispers become most distinct, lingering at the edge of hearing, like voices caught between this world and the next. The combination of chill, shadow, and sound creates a feeling that Magnolia is alive in a way that is not wholly natural. A place where history continues to unfold even when the sun has long set. The haunting at Magnolia Plantation is deeply connected to the estate's history. The grounds date back centuries and were the site of complex social and economic activity, including the labor of enslaved people whose lives were bound to the land. Many believe the spectral figures and whispers are linked to those who suffered here, their presence lingering as a reminder of hardships endured and lives cut short. Visitors have sometimes felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow or melancholy in the darker sections of the gardens, a weight that seems to settle over the shoulders and linger in the mind. These emotions, subtle but persistent, reinforce the feeling that Magnolia is a place where memory and spirit are tightly woven into the landscape. Photographs taken after dark often reveal unusual, anomalous small orbs of light drifting among the trees. Faint blurs that cannot be attributed to lens flare, or shadowy figures standing in areas where no person was visible. Paranormal enthusiasts and investigators have returned repeatedly to the plantation, drawn by the consistency of reports and the variety of phenomena. They speak of capturing voices on recordings, faint figures in photographs, and inexplicable movements of objects, all of which lend credence to the numerous eyewitness accounts. While many encounters are visual or auditory, some are more tactile in nature. Guests report feeling brushes against clothing or sudden, unexplained touches on their arms or shoulders as they walk the darker garden paths. Some describe an odd, electric sensation in the air, a pressure that intensifies when one pauses near certain trees or flower beds. These experiences are often fleeting, yet they leave a lingering impression of being not alone. As if the past itself has found a way to interact with the present. The mansion's interior also holds its share of unsettling tales. Visitors exploring rooms where servants and family members once lived and worked report hearing muted conversations, faint laughter, or soft footsteps in hallways that should be empty. Some have claimed to catch glimpses of figures reflected in mirrors, only to see nothing when turning to look directly. The blend of visual, auditory, and physical sensations creates a multifaceted haunting, one that touches every sense and makes the presence of spirits unmistakably tangible. Despite these experiences, many who visit Magnolia describe the hauntings as subtle rather than malevolent. The spirits, particularly the spectral woman and the whispers in the garden, do not appear to threaten or harm the living. Instead, they act as reminders of a world that existed long before and persists quietly alongside the present. The plantation, while serene and beautiful in daylight, becomes a place where the veil between past and present thins, offering glimpses into the lives, joys, sorrows, and struggles of those who walked these grounds before. Walking Magnolia Plantation at night is a journey into history and the unknown. Guests are advised to tread carefully along the shadowed pathways, to listen to the wind among the oaks, and to be mindful of the fleeting glimpses of movement that may appear at the edge of vision. For those who have felt the whispers, seen the spectral woman, or experienced the sudden chills, Magnolia is not merely a location, it is a living testament to memory, grief, and endurance. The gardens, the house, and the paths themselves hold stories that speak, if only a traveler is willing to listen. Magnolia Plantation's beauty and tranquility by day conceal a complex, haunting presence that emerges as night falls. The soft whispers, spectral figures, and chilling sensations create an experience that is both eerie and mesmerizing, offering a connection to a past that never truly disappears. For those who wander its paths under the cloak of darkness, the plantation whispers its secrets, reminding visitors that the history it holds is alive, persistent, and always just beyond the edge of perception. Drayton Hall, located along the Ashley River in Charleston, South Carolina, is one of the oldest and most historically significant plantations in the state. Built in the mid-18th century, the house stands as a pristine example of Palladian architecture, remarkably preserved through centuries of change. By day, it exudes an almost serene elegance, with its stately facade, sweeping lawn, and the gentle lapping of the river providing a tranquil backdrop. Yet, behind this picturesque exterior lies a presence that defies explanation. Visitors who explore the house and its surrounding grounds after dusk often describe experiences that are unsettling, strange, and deeply haunting, suggesting that Drayton Hall's history has left an indelible imprint upon the very walls of the estate. One of the most commonly reported phenomena inside Drayton Hall is the sudden appearance of cold spots. Guests recount feeling abrupt drops in temperature as they move from room to room, especially along the hallways and in the corners of the grand halls. The chills are often localized, so sharp that they seem almost tangible, as though an unseen presence has passed close by. These temperature shifts are typically accompanied by an inexplicable sense of awareness, a feeling that the house itself is alive and observing those who wander its spaces. Apparitions are also a frequent part of Drayton Hall's eerie reputation. Visitors have reported glimpses of figures moving through the rooms, their appearances fleeting yet unmistakable. Many describe seeing the forms of servants, dressed in period attire, gliding silently across the polished floors. Others have encountered figures resembling members of the family who once called Drayton Hall home, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. These spectral figures rarely interact with the living, but their presence leaves a lingering impression. A reminder that the house is more than just bricks and timber. It is a vessel of memory and history. Some of the most unnerving accounts involve sounds that seem to originate from within the walls themselves. Guests have described hearing rhythmic tapping or scratching, as if someone trapped inside the structure is trying to communicate or escape. The noises are subtle at first, but grow louder, echoing through the hallways in a way that defies explanation. The source is never visible. It is as though the house itself has absorbed the echoes of past lives and is now replaying them in moments of quiet. For those walking alone, the sound can provoke a profound sense of unease, leaving them instinctively glancing over their shoulders despite the emptiness of the rooms. The main rooms of the mansion carry their own haunting characteristics. The drawing room and parlor, often bathed in warm daylight for visitors, transform under moonlight into spaces thick with memory. Some have reported feeling the sensation of someone brushing past them, even when the rooms appear empty. Others hear faint whispers that cannot be traced to any human voice. These auditory anomalies are often described as soft, fragmented sentences, half-formed and elusive, as though the past is attempting to speak but cannot fully articulate itself. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates an environment that is both tangible and disconcerting, making it clear that Drayton Hall holds more than mere history. It holds presence. The architecture and layout of the house contribute to its eerie atmosphere. Long, narrow hallways, high ceilings, and wooden floors that creak under even the lightest step provide the perfect setting for the uncanny. Shadows shift unpredictably in candlelight or moonlight, creating fleeting illusions of movement. Visitors often report seeing these shadows stretch and morph along the walls, occasionally forming shapes that resemble human silhouettes. While some might dismiss these occurrences as tricks of the mind, the consistency of reports over decades suggests that the phenomena are persistent and not simply a product of imagination. Outside the mansion, the grounds also hold spectral associations. The sweeping lawns and ancient oak trees provide the backdrop for stories of shadowy figures glimpsed among the foliage. Guests walking the perimeters of the estate at night sometimes report seeing fleeting images of people in period clothing moving between the trees, as if retracing steps taken centuries ago. Some claim to hear soft footsteps along the riverbank or the faint clatter of tools from long-abandoned gardens, lending an auditory echo to the visual manifestations observed within the house. The Plantations' long history contributes significantly to the haunting. Drayton Hall was home to multiple generations of the Drayton family, and it was also worked by enslaved individuals whose lives and labor shaped the estate. The convergence of these histories, the wealth and influence of the family alongside the toil, suffering, and unrecorded tragedies of the enslaved, has created a complex layer of residual energy that some believe is responsible for the haunting. Visitors report that the presence within the house and grounds is not necessarily malevolent but carries the weight of centuries of human experience, both joyous and tragic. Some visitors have encountered phenomena that seem almost interactive. Ghost hunters and paranormal investigators have recorded unusual auditory events on electronic equipment, from low-frequency hums to whispers that appear to answer questions. Others have captured faint orbs of light on camera, moving in ways that defy natural explanations. Even casual tourists have reported sudden sensations of being touched or guided while exploring the house alone. An almost imperceptible tug at their clothing, or a sensation that someone is walking alongside them, unseen. Despite the unsettling experiences reported, many who visit Drayton Hall describe the hauntings as subtle rather than overtly threatening. The apparitions and sounds often feel like echoes, remnants of lives once lived, replaying themselves quietly. The house seems to serve as a bridge between past and present, offering glimpses into its own history through these spectral phenomena. For those who experience it, there is a sense of reverence, a reminder of the layers of human life that have occurred within its walls. Walking through Drayton Hall, especially at night, is a journey into both history and mystery. The cold spots, ghostly apparitions, and unexplained sounds create an immersive experience that draws visitors closer to the Plantations' long, complex story. The estate is not merely a museum of the past, it is a living testament to the people who inhabited it, their joys, sorrows, and the lingering echoes they left behind. Drayton Hall reminds us that history is never entirely silent, and that sometimes the past chooses to speak in whispers, footsteps, and shadows that drift through time, waiting for someone to notice. Hampton Plantation, nestled in the quiet marshlands near McClellanville, South Carolina, is a place where history and the supernatural seem to intertwine. By day, the plantation offers a glimpse into the grandeur of antebellum life. With its stately mansion, wide verandas, and sweeping views of tidal creeks, visitors can stroll along the porches, admire the meticulously preserved interiors, and imagine the lives of the families who once called Hampton home. Yet, as the sun dips below the horizon and the marshes fall into shadow, the plantation transforms. The charm and elegance of the day give way to an atmosphere thick with whispers, footsteps, and lingering presences that cannot be explained by reason alone. Many of Hampton's ghostly tales revolve around the spirits of the family who once inhabited the estate. Guests have reported seeing fleeting shadows moving through the mansion's rooms, figures that vanish when approached yet leave a lingering sense of awareness. These apparitions are said to resemble members of the Hampton family, dressed in period attire, walking purposefully through spaces that now stand empty. Some witnesses describe the feeling of being watched as they move from room to room, as though invisible eyes are tracking their every step. The presence is subtle, yet unmistakable, a quiet assertion that the house is still very much alive in a way that the living cannot fully perceive. Doors are one of the most frequently cited sources of supernatural activity. Visitors recount hearing them creak open or slam shut without the slightest breeze or human intervention. The sound is sudden and jarring in the otherwise silent mansion, often occurring in rooms that have long been empty. Some have felt a chill in the air immediately afterward, a sudden drop in temperature that seems to accompany the movement. Others claim that doors will open just enough to allow a shadow to pass, or close slowly and deliberately, as if guided by unseen hands. These interactions, while not violent, are deeply unsettling, reinforcing the sense that Hampton is inhabited by more than just memories. Footsteps are another recurring element of the haunting. Many guests walking the halls at night report hearing the soft tap of shoes across the wooden floors, echoing in empty rooms. The sounds sometimes follow visitors as they move, fading when they stop and intensifying when they continue, creating the unnerving impression that someone or something is walking right behind them. In some instances, the footsteps have been described as moving in patterns that suggest a routine, as if the spirits are replaying their daily activities from centuries past. The effect is both eerie and poignant, a reminder that life once thrived within the walls of the plantation and that echoes of those lives remain embedded in its very structure. Perhaps the most chilling accounts from Hampton Plantation involve ghostly whispers. Guests often report hearing their names spoken in hushed tones, voices floating on the night air as if calling from another world. These whispers are distinct, yet elusive, impossible to trace to any living source. Sometimes they appear to come from a nearby room, other times from the hallways or the veranda. Those who experience the phenomenon describe a sense of presence so immediate and personal that it is impossible to ignore. A voice reaching out through time to acknowledge or, perhaps, to warn the living. The plantation's grounds also contribute to its haunted reputation. The surrounding marshes, with their low-lying fog and dense vegetation, create an atmosphere of isolation and quiet tension. Visitors walking along the pathways at dusk sometimes catch glimpses of figures standing just beyond the tree line, fading into the shadows when approached. Others report hearing distant laughter or the faint sound of someone moving through the underbrush, only to find the paths empty and silent. The combination of natural isolation and historical resonance makes Hampton Plantation a place where the veil between the past and present feels especially thin. Many paranormal investigators have been drawn to Hampton, attempting to capture evidence of its supernatural activity. Reports include unexplained cold spots, disembodied voices recorded on audio equipment, and occasional glimpses of shadowy figures in photographs taken at night. Guests have even reported feeling sudden touches, brushes against their arms or shoulders that are fleeting but unmistakable. The consistency of these experiences across decades suggests that Hampton Plantation holds more than anecdotal tales. It is a site where the past continues to make itself known. Hampton's haunting is often described as both eerie and melancholic. Unlike tales of violent hauntings, the spirits here seem tethered, not by anger, but by memory and unfinished presence. The whispers, footsteps, and shifting shadows create a profound awareness of lives that have come and gone, a palpable connection. To the people who once walked these halls, tended the gardens, and lived under the roof that now seems to pulse with unseen energy, the plantation is a living reminder that history leaves its mark not only in stone and wood, but also in the intangible echoes of human experience. Visitors often leave Hampton Plantation with a mixture of awe and unease. The grandeur of the mansion and the beauty of the surrounding landscape remain undeniable. Yet they are forever intertwined with the knowledge that the past is never fully absent. The house, the marshes, and the pathways all seem to breathe with memory, whispering their stories to anyone willing or unwitting enough to listen. Even long after leaving, many recall the sensation of being acknowledged by unseen eyes, the faint creak of a door, or the gentle echo of a name carried on the wind. Hampton Plantation, in its quiet elegance and haunting presence, stands as a testament to history, memory, and the enduring imprint of those who came before. Its ghostly phenomena, explained doors, footsteps, and whispers, serve as reminders that the past never truly dies, that the lives lived within these walls continue to resonate in the shadows. For those who wander its rooms or stroll its grounds at night, the experience is a journey into both history and the supernatural, a place where the living and the dead coexist in a delicate, unsettling balance. To step into Hampton after dark is to feel the weight of centuries, to hear the whispers of the long gone, and to recognize that some stories, like the spirits that tell them, never truly fade. Middleton Place, located along the banks of the Ashley River near Charleston, South Carolina, is celebrated for its meticulously designed gardens, terraced landscapes, and the grandeur of its antebellum architecture. By day, the estate is a serene and picturesque retreat where visitors can stroll among blooming flowers, admire fountains and sculptures, and absorb the history that stretches back centuries. Yet, beneath the beauty and calm lies a presence far darker than the landscape suggests. As the sun sets and shadows lengthen across the grounds, the plantation transforms, revealing echoes of lives long past and secrets that linger in the quiet corners of its gardens and along the riverbanks. The gardens of Middleton Place, famous for their geometric symmetry and seasonal blooms, have also become a stage for inexplicable phenomena. Guests walking the hedgerows at night often report seeing movement where none should exist. Shadows shift and stretch along the pathways, darting between carefully manicured hedges, vanishing when approached. Some describe figures glimpsed from the corner of the eye, silent and indistinct but unmistakably human in shape. Others have seen fleeting images of people in period clothing, as if the gardens themselves are replaying scenes from the plantation's history, caught somewhere between the present and centuries past. One of the most chilling aspects of the haunting is the presence of spectral lantern lights that appear across the grounds. Visitors have reported seeing faint glows hovering along distant paths or near the river's edge, flickering in a manner inconsistent with natural sources. Some claim these lights move as though carried by unseen hands, tracing routes that mirror the daily routines of those who once lived and worked on the estate. Paranormal enthusiasts often suggest that these lights are manifestations of spirits who linger to revisit the plantation, their presence quietly asserting itself in the darkness, a reminder that the history of the land is never truly gone. Along the banks of the Ashley River, Middleton Place holds one of its most haunting legends. Guests frequently speak of hearing cries carried on the night wind, plaintive and sorrowful, echoing over the water where generations ago enslaved people labored, lived, and sometimes died. These cries are described as both mournful and urgent, as if reaching out across time for recognition or release. Witnesses report the sensation of being watched while walking near the river, as though invisible eyes track their movements through the mist rising from the water. The combination of sound, shadow, and the river's reflective surface creates an atmosphere thick with tension, leaving visitors profoundly aware of the plantation's lingering past. Inside the mansion, visitors encounter an equally unsettling ambience. Cold spots form in hallways, drawing attention to spaces where apparitions are most frequently reported. Guests have described fleeting glimpses of figures moving through rooms, appearing and vanishing before they can be identified. Some report hearing soft footsteps or the faint rustle of fabric as if someone is moving just beyond sight. Doors have been known to open or close without explanation, and in some of the older rooms, whispering voices have been heard, fragmented, indistinct, and impossible to attribute to any living source. The combination of tactile, auditory, and visual experiences leaves visitors with the unmistakable impression that Middleton Place is more than a historical site. It is a living repository of memories and spirits. Many believe that the haunting of Middleton Place is tied to the estate's long and complex history. The plantation was home to multiple generations of the Middleton family, influential and affluent, yet it was also a place where enslaved people endured hardship and suffering. Their labor created the beauty and wealth that now define the estate, and some theorists suggest that the spectral manifestations, shadows among the hedges, flickering lanterns and cries along the river are the lingering echoes of those who lived, labored, and died on the grounds. The presence is not considered malevolent, but it is undeniably palpable, a weight that presses against the boundaries of the visible world, reminding all who traverse the grounds that history is never entirely silent. Visitors to Middleton Place often describe moments of heightened awareness, times when the ordinary sounds of the river or the wind through the trees are accompanied by sensations that defy explanation. A soft brush of air, a sudden drop in temperature, or the faintest whisper can create an intense sense of being not alone. Some have reported shadows crossing pathways with no discernible source, while others describe hearing footsteps echoing from distant parts of the gardens or mansion, though no other living person is present. These experiences are often fleeting but leave an enduring impression, the kind that lingers long after the visitor has left the plantation. Photography taken at night frequently yields unexpected results. Many have captured orbs of light floating above the grounds, blurred shapes along pathways, or hazy figures near the mansion and gardens. While some might dismiss these as artifacts or tricks of the camera, the consistency of eyewitness accounts suggests that there is more to Middleton Place than meets the eye. Shadowy forms appear again and again in similar areas. Lantern lights recur along the same paths, and the cries from the river are reported consistently by those who walk the estate after dusk. Despite the eerie occurrences, many visitors describe the experience as haunting rather than frightening. The spirits and shadows at Middleton Place are tied to memory, to lives once lived, and to the history embedded in every corner of the estate. Guests often feel a deep respect for the presence, a recognition that they are not intruding upon empty land, but walking among echoes of the past. The Plantations' haunting, subtle and persistent, offers a connection to history that is both unsettling and awe-inspiring, a reminder that the stories of those who came before remain woven into the land. Middleton Place, with its famed gardens and historic mansion, stands as a testament to both beauty and the enduring presence of the past. Shadows that move among the hedges, spectral lantern lights flickering in the distance, and the haunting cries along the Ashley River serve as constant reminders that this land holds more than just its physical form. Visitors who wander its grounds after nightfall are walking in a space where memory and spirit converge, where the living can sense the echoes of lives long gone, and where the whispers of history continue to speak in subtle, chilling ways. Rose Hill Plantation, situated near Bluffton, South Carolina, is a site steeped in history, elegance, and an unsettling presence that emerges as day gives way to night. By sunlight, the plantation exudes southern charm, manicured lawns, sprawling grounds, and stately architecture that reflects centuries of heritage. Visitors can walk among the gardens, explore the main house, and imagine the lives of the people who once called Rose Hill home. Yet, when darkness descends, the plantation transforms into a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blur, where shadows move in unexpected ways, and where whispers seem to echo from the past, carrying messages no living soul can fully understand. One of the most persistent and chilling legends associated with Rose Hill is the spectral figure of a woman in white. Guests and locals alike have reported seeing her drift silently across the grounds, her flowing gown trailing along the paths and lawn as if she is moving in a realm separate from the living. The apparition is said to appear at various points across the estate, sometimes standing beneath the grand oak trees, at other times walking along the edges of the property or near the main house. Her presence is fleeting, often visible only for a few seconds, yet it leaves an indelible impression on those who witness her, a lingering sense of being observed by a soul tethered to the plantation. In addition to this ghostly figure, Rose Hill is renowned for the eerie sounds that can emerge after dusk. Guests walking near the chapel, a modest structure on the grounds, have reported hearing prayers whispered softly in the night air. These are not full recitations or audible congregational voices. but fragmented utterances that suggest devotion and ritual long abandoned. Some visitors claim the whispers call out faintly as they pass, as though the chapel still holds a congregation of souls who never truly left. The combination of the whispers and the lingering presence of the woman in white creates an unsettling atmosphere, one that lingers long after footsteps have faded from the gravel paths. The mansion and surrounding structures of Rose Hill add further layers to its haunted reputation. Many who explore the interior at night report sudden chills, particularly in hallways and rooms that were once private quarters. These cold spots are often localized, abrupt, and intense enough to provoke a sharp sense of discomfort. In some cases, guests have described the sensation of being followed by invisible presences, a subtle brush against clothing, or an intangible pressure behind them as they move from room to room. These encounters are fleeting but undeniable, leaving visitors with the profound sense that the plantation's history is still very much alive, manifesting in subtle, often disorienting ways. The gardens and grounds themselves contribute to Rose Hill's spectral atmosphere. At night, the shadows cast by trees and hedges seem to shift unexpectedly, creating forms and shapes that vanish the moment one focuses directly on them. Many visitors walking along the paths have reported hearing soft footsteps on the grass or gravel, though they are alone, and the air sometimes carries faint murmurs or sighs that cannot be traced to any human source. Some have glimpsed moving figures in the peripheral vision, always there for a moment, then gone, which reinforces the sense that the plantation is inhabited by invisible observers who replay moments of the past silently in the night. The presence of the spectral woman in white is often linked to tragedy, loss, and devotion. Folklore suggests that she may have been a member of the family who once lived at Rose Hill, a woman whose life ended too soon, or whose spirit remained attached to the plantation through grief or unfinished business. Her wandering figure, combined with the chapel whispers, gives the impression of a guardian or mourner, endlessly retracing her steps through familiar spaces. Guests have reported that when they encounter her, the air feels charged, a mixture of sorrow and longing that seems to seep into their bones, leaving a lasting impression of sadness mingled with awe. Audio and photographic evidence collected by paranormal investigators often supports these first-hand accounts. Some audio recordings reveal soft whispers or indistinct voices that were not audible to those present at the time, lending credibility to the persistent stories of supernatural activity. While skeptics may attribute these experiences to imagination or environmental factors, the consistency and emotional weight of the reports point to something far more enigmatic, an enduring presence that continues to make itself known after centuries of history. Hopswee Plantation, nestled along the banks of the Waccamaw River in Georgetown, South Carolina, is a site that exudes historical charm by day but whispers of the uncanny after dark. Built in 1740, Hopswee has been carefully preserved, a stately example of antebellum architecture with its sprawling oak trees and classic low-country design. However, for those who step inside, the plantation offers more than just a glimpse into the past. It offers encounters that hint at the lingering presence of souls who never truly left. Visitors to Hopswee often recount experiences that cannot be easily explained. One common phenomenon is the sudden and inexplicable chill that can strike even in the warmth of summer. Guests describe wandering through rooms with sunlight streaming through the windows, only to feel a sharp drop in temperature, as if invisible hands have opened a door to another realm. The cold seems to focus in specific areas, particularly along the grand stairwell or near certain corners of the plantation, prompting both curiosity and unease. The stairwell itself has become a focal point for these spectral encounters. Many who have ventured up the steps have reported hearing the echo of footsteps that belong to no living person. Some say the sounds are deliberate, as if someone is pacing, careful not to disturb those who are present. Others describe the noises as erratic crooning up and down the stairs in a pattern that seems almost playful, yet deeply unnerving. Staff and tour guides sometimes hear these same footsteps, only to find empty hallways when they investigate. The sounds are often accompanied by the sensation of being followed. A subtle pressure at the back of the neck or a whisper of movement just beyond the corner of one's eye inside the main house. The sense of observation is particularly strong. Visitors frequently report the unsettling feeling of being watched, even when they are alone. Some claim to catch glimpses of shadowy figures in reflective surfaces or out of the corner of their eye, only for the vision to vanish the moment it is directly observed. Others speak of hearing faint whispers in empty rooms, voices that rise and fall in indistinct phrases, leaving an impression rather than a message. These occurrences are reported across different times of day, suggesting that the house itself, rather than any external influence, may be the conduit for these experiences. Hopswee's gardens and surrounding grounds are not immune to the plantation's mysterious reputation. During tours, guests have reported seeing fleeting figures moving through the live oaks and magnolias, often vanishing before they can be identified. Some describe these figures as wearing period clothing, with the appearance of women in long dresses or men in colonial attire. The ethereal presence seems benign to some, almost like echoes of life from centuries past. Yet for others, the experience is accompanied by a profound sense of melancholy, a feeling that history itself has left an imprint of sorrow. One particular story, often shared among repeat visitors, involves a bedroom on the second floor of the main house. This room is noted for an intense chill that can materialize without warning. Guests report the sensation of a hand brushing against theirs, despite being alone. Some have described seeing the faint outline of a woman in period dress standing silently by the window, gazing out at the river. When questioned by guides, long-term staff members affirm that the room has always carried an unusual energy, one that resists easy explanation and seems to draw those who are sensitive to the paranormal. The kitchen and dining areas of Hopswee also harbor their own spectral stories. Objects have been reported moving without cause, such as chairs slightly shifting from their original positions or silverware appearing in unusual arrangements. The phenomenon is subtle, yet consistent enough that staff and visitors alike have taken note. Some interpret these occurrences as the echoes of daily life from generations ago, an invisible reenactment of routines long abandoned. Others believe it is the Plantation's way of reminding guests of the human presence that once filled its halls, a presence that never quite departed. Guided tours of Hopswee occasionally include anecdotes about the former inhabitants, emphasizing both their historical importance and their lingering spiritual footprint. The plantation was originally owned by the Haywood family, whose lives were intertwined with the land and its labor. Stories suggest that the spirits of past residents, including those of enslaved individuals, may have imprinted themselves on the environment, leaving subtle traces in rooms, on staircases, and along garden paths. Visitors often sense a dual presence, one of refinement and order, reflecting the family's status, and one of quiet suffering, a shadowed layer beneath the surface of opulence. Even the architecture of Hopswee seems to encourage these encounters. The high ceilings, expansive rooms, and narrow hallways create an environment in which sound carries and shadows play tricks on the mind. A creaking floorboard or a draft moving through a shutter can take on a life of its own, enhancing the feeling of being observed. Those with a heightened awareness of such sensations often leave with vivid stories, while others may simply feel an unshakable sense of awe, tinged with unease. Visitors who return to Hopswee repeatedly often describe a growing familiarity with the house's unseen inhabitants. Some attempt to engage with the spirits through conversation or silent acknowledgement, and occasionally report subtle responses, shifts in air, unexplained sounds, or the fleeting sense of a presence close by. Whether interpreted as playful, melancholic, or cautionary, these experiences contribute to Hopswee's reputation as a site where the past is never fully silent. Even with its ghostly reputation, Hopswee Plantation remains a place of beauty and historical significance. The surrounding Waccamaw River, the manicured gardens, and the elegant antebellum architecture provide a serene backdrop for visitors seeking both history and a touch of the unexplained. Yet, for those willing to linger, The plantation offers a glimpse into the otherworldly space where echoes of footsteps, whispers, and unseen eyes remind guests that some presences, though invisible, are profoundly tangible. Hopswe Plantation continues to attract history enthusiasts and paranormal seekers alike. Drawn by the unique combination of southern charm, deep historical roots, and lingering mystery, visitors leave with stories that blend fact and the uncanny, recounting moments when the ordinary turns strange, when a room feels alive, or when a shadow appears just beyond perception. These tales, passed from guide to guest and from guest to guest, ensure that Hopswe remains not just a relic of the past, but a living space of whispered secrets and spectral presences that endure across centuries. Whether one walks its halls during the warmth of day or the quiet of evening, Hopswe Plantation invites reflection, curiosity, and perhaps a measure of trepidation. The cold drafts, phantom footsteps, and sensations of being watched are not merely stories. They are experiences shared by many who have stepped into its halls. Hopswe's ghosts, if they exist, do not frighten aimlessly. They remind visitors of the weight of history, the lives once lived within these walls, and the subtle ways in which the past continues to reach into the present. For those who visit Hopswe, the line between history and haunting is blurred, leaving behind memories that linger like the soft echo of a footstep on a polished floor, a whisper carried on the breeze, or the cold brush of air in a sunlit room. The plantation's beauty is undeniable, but it is the sense of life beyond life that etches itself most deeply into the minds of those who walk its storied halls. Litchfield Plantation, located on the serene shores of Pawleys Island, South Carolina, is a site steeped in history and quiet mystery. Established in the early 18th century, the plantation is known for its sprawling oak trees, moss-draped branches, and the calm meandering creeks that run through its grounds. Visitors are drawn not only to its natural beauty and historical architecture, but also to the lingering stories of the unexplained, whispered from one generation of guests to the next. One of the most persistent tales at Litchfield involves the appearance of a woman, dressed in clothing reminiscent of the 18th or early 19th century. Witnesses describe seeing her walking along the shaded paths or near the edge of the plantation fields at dusk. Her movements are slow and deliberate, as if she is retracing a familiar route long after life has left her body. Some visitors claim that when they attempt to approach, the figure vanishes, leaving only a faint trace of the air's chill and the rustle of the Spanish moss. The woman's presence is rarely aggressive. Instead, it carries a haunting sadness, as though she is bound to the land by memories too powerful to release. The evenings at Litchfield seem to amplify the plantation's eerie qualities. Guests often report hearing soft weeping drifting through the halls of the main house or along the grounds. The sound is subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but persistent enough to draw attention. Some describe it as coming from the direction of the old kitchen or the garden paths, areas that have remained largely unchanged for centuries. The origin of the weeping is never clear, and those who follow the sound often find only empty corridors or shadowed clearings. Despite its sorrowful tone, many who hear the cries describe a strange feeling of calm, as if the sound is a lament rather than a warning. Whispers are another common phenomenon experienced at Litchfield Plantation. Visitors recount waking in the middle of the night to hear gentle murmurs brushing their ears, words too faint or fragmented to understand. The whispers do not seem threatening, but they evoke an undeniable sense of presence, as though someone unseen is sharing the space with the living. Some guests have described the whispers as almost conversational, with a tone that conveys longing, regret, or unfinished business. Even those who are initially skeptical often find themselves unnerved by the experience, the sensation lingering long after they have left the plantation grounds. The grounds themselves seem to participate in the haunting. The ancient live oaks, their limbs heavy with Spanish moss, create shadows that twist and stretch with the fading light. Pathways that wind between fields and small creeks seem to encourage glimpses of movement at the edges of vision. Guests have reported seeing fleeting shapes among the trees, sometimes appearing to move with purpose, other times fading away as though made of mist. The combination of shadow, light, and memory gives the plantation a timeless quality. A space where the past and present intertwine in subtle, unsettling ways. Several specific locations on the plantation are said to be particularly active. The old carriage house, for example, is known for sudden cold drafts and the occasional sound of doors creaking open on their own. Visitors have sometimes felt a presence standing behind them, only to turn and find the space empty. The main house, with its high ceilings and wooden floors, is another hotspot for unexplained activity. Footsteps echo through the hallways, and objects are occasionally found in positions different from where they were left. Many interpret these events as echoes of life once lived, a reminder that the plantation has been witness to centuries of human activity, some of which may have left a lingering imprint. Stories from long-term staff and repeat visitors reinforce the sense that Litchfield's spirits are tied to the land itself. The woman seen walking at dusk is often described as sorrowful, and her appearances are accompanied by a tangible change in the atmosphere. A subtle drop in temperature, a faint scent of old flowers, or the quiet sound of rustling fabric. Those who have experienced this report a mixture of fear and fascination, unable to shake the feeling that they have glimpsed something beyond the ordinary. Similarly, the weeping and whispers seem to respond to the presence of the living, intensifying when visitors pause in quiet reflection and fading when attention turns elsewhere. Some researchers and paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the experiences at Litchfield may be a form of residual haunting, where emotions and events from the past imprint themselves on a location. The sorrowful cries, the whispered voices, and the vision of the woman in old-fashioned clothing all point to a repeated pattern of emotional energy, replaying faintly for those sensitive to it. Others prefer to think of the plantation as a space where the boundaries between the material and spiritual worlds are unusually thin, allowing fleeting glimpses of another time to slip into the present. Despite the spectral activity, Litchfield Plantation remains a place of beauty and reflection. Its gardens, live oaks, and historic structures offer a quiet charm that invites exploration and contemplation. Visitors are encouraged to walk the paths slowly, to listen to the subtle sounds of nature, and perhaps to notice what else might be sharing the space. The plantation's haunting is never overtly menacing. It is a quiet presence that invites curiosity and respect, a reminder that history is never truly gone, and that the echoes of those who came before can still be felt in the rustle of the moss and the whisper of the wind. Nighttime at Litchfield carries a different atmosphere altogether. Shadows stretch long across the fields, the river reflects the fading light, and the cries of birds are replaced by a profound silence, broken only by the soft sound of footsteps that may or may not belong to the living. It is in these moments that many visitors claim to sense the woman in old-fashioned clothing most clearly, gliding across the plantation with a purpose that remains unknown, a ghostly presence that bridges centuries. Ultimately, Litchfield Plantation offers more than historical insight. It offers an experience of the unseen. Guests leave with stories of whispered voices, sorrowful weeping, and fleeting figures that defy explanation. The plantation's blend of natural beauty, historical significance, and spectral mystery ensures that it lingers in the minds of those who visit, leaving behind memories that are at once enchanting and unsettling. In every creaking floorboard, in every swaying branch, and in every shadow at dusk, the presence of the past is palpable, reminding all who walk its grounds that some spirits never truly leave, and that history sometimes reaches out in whispers and tears to those willing to listen. The Hermitage Plantation, once a sprawling estate near Morrow's Inlet, South Carolina, now exists only in fragments. Its grandeur, long erased by time, fire, and the relentless encroachment of nature. Despite its destruction, the site continues to capture the imagination of locals and visitors alike. The ruins are steeped in history, and with that history comes a collection of ghostly tales, accounts of inexplicable lights, strange sounds, and the lingering presence of those who once walked the grounds. Walking through the remains of the Hermitage, one is immediately struck by the sense of absence. Foundations of brick and stone remain, scattered and crumbling, while nature reclaims what was once a carefully cultivated estate. The air feels heavier here, almost charged, as though the memories of the past cling to the earth itself. Those who explore the ruins often report feeling a presence watching them, a subtle awareness that they are not truly alone. It is a sensation that begins faintly with a flicker of movement in the corner of the eye or the quiet rustle of leaves when no wind blows, but it grows steadily more insistent as the sun dips below the horizon. The most commonly reported phenomenon at the Hermitage involves strange lights that appear where the buildings once stood. Witnesses describe orbs or flickering glows that seem to float just above the ground, moving slowly along the foundation stones or lingering near the remnants of old walls. The lights are said to change intensity and color without any apparent source, sometimes dimming to a faint shimmer and other times glowing brightly enough to illuminate the surrounding ruins. Visitors who attempt to approach the lights often find them receding, always just out of reach, as if drawn by some unseen force or energy that resists human intrusion. Alongside the visual phenomena, sound plays a prominent role in the Plantations' haunting. Locals and visitors alike report hearing distant cries echoing across the ruins, voices that rise and fall in sorrowful cadence. The cries are often described as desperate and mournful, carrying a tone of pain or longing that seems to belong to those who suffered or died on the plantation long ago. Sometimes the cries are fragmented, individual calls that punctuate the night air, while other times they blend into a chorus of voices, as though a group of spirits has gathered, unable to move on. Even when the wind is still, the sound seems to carry clearly across the property, unnerving anyone who listens closely. Many who visit the Hermitage also speak of chanting, faint at first but growing louder as night deepens. The voices are sometimes rhythmic, almost hypnotic, like a ceremonial echo preserved in the ruins. Some have suggested that these sounds may be tied to the lives of those enslaved on the plantation, rituals or expressions of resilience and resistance that linger in the air. Others interpret the chanting as a residual haunting, a replay of a moment frozen in time, endlessly repeating for those attuned to it. Regardless of origin, the effect is undeniable. Visitors feel the weight of history pressing down, an invisible audience witnessing their intrusion into a space charged with memory and sorrow. The ruins themselves seem to amplify these experiences. Broken walls, scattered timbers, and the skeletal remains of chimneys create long shadows that shift with the moonlight. Narrow pathways between foundation stones can make even a faint sound seem amplified, and the uneven terrain encourages a heightened awareness of every step. Footsteps echo unnaturally, and sometimes visitors swear they hear additional steps that do not belong to anyone in the group. The sensation is subtle, yet pervasive, leaving many with the uneasy impression that the dead are walking alongside the living. Local lore emphasizes the tragedy and suffering that once unfolded at the Hermitage, and this history seems inseparable from the paranormal reports. The plantation endured fires, floods, and the hardships of colonial and antebellum life. Generations of families lived and labored there, and the stories of loss, despair, and unfulfilled lives are woven into the very soil. Those who experience the hauntings often feel that the cries and lights are not malevolent, but rather echoes of lives marked by hardship, lingering in place long after the physical structures have vanished. Encounters with the supernatural at the Hermitage vary widely. Some visitors experience the site as quiet and contemplative, sensing only a subtle unease as they wander among the ruins. Others report vivid apparitions, shadowy figures emerging from behind remnants of walls, fleeting glimpses of people moving purposefully through spaces that no longer exist. The temperature can drop suddenly, even in the warmth of day, and the air often carries scent smoky or metallic that cannot be traced to any visible source. These sensations combine to create an atmosphere in which the boundary between past and present feels thin and permeable. The flickering lights are perhaps the most enduring symbol of the Hermitage's haunting. They appear at night like small stars hovering close to the earth, yet their motion is deliberate, almost intelligent. Observers sometimes see the lights tracing familiar paths through the ruins, as though replaying the routines of those who once inhabited the plantation. At other times, The lights seem to congregate near the foundations, forming clusters that pulse in rhythm with the cries and chanting. Whether natural or supernatural, the effect is profoundly moving, leaving a lasting impression on anyone who witnesses them. Even with its desolate appearance, the Hermitage Plantation draws people who are curious about history and the unknown. The ruins are not only a window into the past, but also a living stage for unexplained phenomena. A place where centuries of human experience continue to manifest. The combination of sorrowful cries, rhythmic chanting, and mysterious lights ensures that the plantation's story is never complete. That visitors leave with both a sense of awe and an awareness of forces beyond ordinary perception. Walking through the Hermitage at night, it is easy to imagine the lives that once thrived there, the families, the workers, and those who suffered quietly in its shadows. The ruins serve as a reminder that history is not always silent, that the echoes of joy, pain, and resilience can linger long after buildings crumble and landscapes change. For those who visit, the experience is haunting and unforgettable, a testament to the power of memory and the subtle presence of the past reaching across time in whispers, cries, and flickering lights. Oakley Plantation, located in St. Stephen, South Carolina, is a site steeped in both history and mystery. The sprawling estate, surrounded by ancient live oaks draped in Spanish moss, embodies the elegance of the antebellum Lowcountry. Its grand hallways, high ceilings, and ornate staircases speak to a bygone era. Yet for those who visit, the beauty is often accompanied by a subtle, unnerving presence. Local lore and guest experiences suggest that Oakley is more than a historical landmark. It is a place where the past lingers in ways that defy explanation. The most persistent tale involves the spirit of a former mistress, whose presence is most often felt in the upstairs halls. Visitors report hearing the rhythmic sound of pacing footsteps when no one is present. The steps are measured and deliberate, echoing across the wooden floors and along the walls, creating the sensation that someone is walking just out of reach. Some describe the pacing as almost impatient, as though she is waiting for someone to return, while others note that it can suddenly stop, leaving a haunting silence that amplifies every creak of the house. These footsteps are frequently accompanied by a chill in the air, a coldness that seems to follow the spirit's movements, and that deepens the sense of being observed. Humming is another signature phenomenon reported at Oakley Plantation. Guests often awaken in the middle of the night to hear a soft, melodic tune drifting through the halls. The hum is low and sustained, rising and falling like a lullaby from another time. It seems to originate from the upper floor, often near the hallways where the mistress is said to pace. Visitors who attempt to follow the sound often find themselves in empty corridors, the hum fading into silence as if the house itself has swallowed it. The tune carries a mournful quality, a blend of longing and melancholy, leaving listeners with the impression that the spirit is both present and unreachable. Perhaps the most unnerving experiences involve the sensation of touch. Several visitors report feeling invisible hands brush against them as they ascend or descend the main staircase. The contact is fleeting but unmistakable, sometimes light, like a finger trailing along a shoulder or arm, and at other times more insistent, creating the impression that the spirit is attempting to guide, warn, or communicate. These encounters often coincide with the hum and the footsteps, producing a layered experience in which sound, sensation, and atmosphere combine to make the past feel startlingly present. The architecture of Oakley Plantation amplifies these experiences. The high ceilings, narrow hallways, and expansive staircases allow sounds to echo unnaturally, and shadows play tricks on the eyes. A breeze passing through a slightly open window can resemble a soft sigh, and the sway of a curtain in the night can take on the shape of a fleeting figure. Even ordinary sounds of floorboard creaking or the soft scuff of shoes gain an intensified resonance, adding to the sense that the house is alive with unseen movement. Visitors often report feeling heightened awareness, noting details they might otherwise overlook, subtle changes in light, a faint scent of flowers, or the way shadows seem to linger longer than they should. The mistress's presence is often described with a profound sense of melancholy. Witnesses speak of an intangible sadness that permeates the upper hallways, as if she is bound by duties left unfinished or memories too painful to release. Some claim to catch glimpses of her at the edge of vision, a shadowy figure gliding past a doorway or pausing silently at the top of the stairs. The figure is never threatening. Instead, it communicates a subtle sense of longing, a presence connected to the routines and expectations of life in a time long past. Rooms along the upper floor also bear traces of supernatural activity. Doors sometimes open and close on their own. Objects appear to shift slightly from where they were left, and cool drafts move inexplicably through the corridors. Many visitors notice a shift in energy upon entering these spaces, a sensation of being observed that is difficult to explain. Even those who enter expecting nothing unusual often find themselves drawn into an atmosphere where the line between the living and the spectral becomes indistinct. Staff and repeat visitors confirm that Oakley Plantation exhibits a consistent pattern of paranormal phenomena. The footsteps, the hum, and the brush of invisible hands are reported by different people at different times, yet the experiences share remarkable similarities. These consistent occurrences suggest a lingering presence that is not tied to individual perception, but rather to the location itself. The upper halls seem particularly charged, holding the energy of a spirit that refuses to fade, tied to the architecture and history of the house in ways that are palpable to those who enter. Some interpret Oakley's hauntings as residual, a replay of the mistress's life etched into the very fabric of the house. Others suggest a more interactive presence, one that responds to the living with touches, sounds, and movement. Regardless of interpretation, the experiences leave visitors with a profound sense of connection to the past, an awareness that history has not entirely departed. Those who spend time on the property often report a mix of awe and unease, a recognition that they have witnessed something beyond the ordinary. Even the surrounding grounds contribute to the plantation's haunting atmosphere. The massive live oaks, most draped branches, and expansive lawns create long shadows and dappled light that intensify as the day wanes. The transition from outdoor spaces to the upper hallways often feels like entering a different realm, where the chill of the interior and the subtle movements of the spirit become far more pronounced. Visitors find that lingering near the staircase or pausing in the hallways increases the likelihood of sensing her presence, whether through sound, touch, or an ineffable awareness of being observed. Ultimately, Oakley Plantation offers more than history. It offers an encounter with a lingering soul. The mistress's pacing, humming, and ghostly touches form a tapestry of subtle but unmistakable phenomena, connecting the living to a past that persists in whispers, footsteps, and fleeting sensations. Guests leave with stories that linger long after they depart, experiences that are at once haunting and compelling. A reminder that the past continues to reach into the present in ways both delicate and undeniable. Kensington Plantation, located in Georgetown County, South Carolina, is a place where history and the supernatural seem to meet in unsettling harmony. Though the main house lies in ruins, the plantation continues to draw visitors who are fascinated by both its storied past and its eerie present. Broken foundations, crumbling chimneys, and overgrown pathways hint at the estate's former grandeur, yet beneath the surface, the remnants of life once lived here seem to linger, leaving traces that defy explanation. Many who visit Kensington are drawn first to its ruins, wandering among the remnants of walls and scattered bricks, imagining the lives that once unfolded within the estate. Yet even amid the beauty of overgrown gardens and the soft rustle of trees, unusual phenomena have long been reported. One of the most striking is the appearance of strange mists. Photographs taken around the property often reveal fog-like forms hovering over the ruins, moving in patterns that seem deliberate. Sometimes the shapes resemble human figures, fleeting and indistinct, while other times they appear as glowing orbs of light drifting silently among the crumbling walls. These mists cannot be traced to natural causes. and their consistency over time has fascinated both amateur ghost hunters and professional investigators alike. Whispers are another frequent occurrence at Kensington Plantation. Visitors often describe hearing faint voices carried on the wind, murmurs that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. The words are rarely clear, forming only fragmented phrases or gentle intonations. Yet they create a chilling sense that the plantation is filled with lingering presence. Many note that the whispers are most noticeable when the ruins are quiet, when the wind is still, and when the sun is low, casting long shadows across the crumbling foundations. The voices seem to follow visitors as they walk, drifting from one side of the ruins to the other, fading only when attention is diverted or when the person leaves the grounds. Perhaps the most unnerving experiences reported at Kensington involve footsteps crunching on the gravel paths that wind between the ruins. Guests describe walking alone along these overgrown avenues, only to hear the unmistakable sound of someone following behind them. The steps are deliberate, echoing clearly in the quiet of the plantation, yet when they turn to look, no one is there. Some have called out, expecting another visitor, but the sound continues regardless, persistent and unyielding. These phantom footsteps are reported at different times and locations, often near the foundations of the main house or along the drive leading into the property. They create a visceral sense of being accompanied by an unseen presence, heightening the tension and mystery of the site. The ruins themselves seem to amplify these experiences. Broken walls and scattered debris create natural corridors where sound carries oddly, and shadows twist in ways that play tricks on the eyes. A gust of wind through a partially collapsed window can sound like a sigh or even a whisper, while sunlight, filtering through the trees, can make ordinary shadows appear humanoid. Visitors frequently report feeling a subtle pressure, a weight in the air, that suggests the estate is alive in ways beyond human perception. These small details combine to create a pervasive sensation that the past is not entirely gone, and that those who lived and labored here left an indelible mark on the land. The history of Kensington Plantation only deepens the sense of haunting. Like many plantations in the Low Country, it was a site of both privilege and hardship, home to families who prospered and to enslaved individuals whose lives were often defined by suffering and labor. Some theorists suggest that the mists, whispers, and phantom footsteps may be residual energies of big tense emotion left imprinted on the property over generations. Others believe the site is home to spirits who remain consciously aware of the living, their presence subtly interacting with visitors through sight, sound, and sensation. Whatever the explanation, the experiences reported by guests suggest that Kensington is a place where history and memory converge in palpable ways. Photographers have long been intrigued by Kensington Plantation. Even those familiar with photographic oddities admit that the consistency of these anomalies is difficult to dismiss. Many believe that the ruins act as a kind of conduit, capturing echoes of the past that are otherwise invisible, making Kensington not just a location of historical interest, but a place where time and memory seem to overlap. Visitors also report a heightened awareness when exploring the plantation. The quiet of the ruins, punctuated only by the wind and occasional bird calls, allows subtle sensations to become amplified. A twig snapping underfoot may sound like deliberate movement. A faint rustle in the grass may feel like a presence brushing past. Many describe a creeping sense of being watched or followed, a feeling that grows stronger as they move deeper into the ruins. This awareness is often accompanied by a mix of fear and fascination, as the plantation draws people into an atmosphere of suspense and reflection, where every sound and shadow is imbued with potential significance. Kensington's phantom footsteps, whispering voices, and mysterious mists create a haunting experience that lingers long after a visit. The ruins offer a tangible connection to a past filled with life, labor, and sorrow. Yet they are also a place where the unexplained manifests in ways both subtle and startling. Guests leave with stories that cannot be fully explained, moments when the ordinary transforms into the uncanny, and memories of sensations that are impossible to forget. Ultimately, Kensington Plantation is more than a collection of ruins. It is a living memory, a place where history and haunting converge. The strange mists captured in photographs, the whispers drifting on the wind, and the footsteps that crunch on gravel without a visible source all contribute to an atmosphere that is both captivating and unnerving. Those who walk its grounds are reminded that some echoes of the past refuse to fade, persisting in shadow, sound, and light, inviting both reflection and a measure of trepidation. In every photograph, every whisper, and every solitary step along the gravel, Kensington Plantation holds a presence that lingers far beyond its physical remnants. Windsor Plantation, situated on Edisto Island, South Carolina, is a place where history and mystery intertwine in ways that are both captivating and unsettling. Once a thriving estate, it now stands as a quiet landscape of overgrown fields, ancient oaks draped with Spanish moss, and the skeletal remains of buildings long abandoned. Visitors drawn to its beauty often find themselves encountering something far less tangible, a spectral presence whose story has been whispered among locals for generations. At the heart of these tales is a man in ragged clothing, a restless spirit said to wander near the old gates, his existence bound to the land he once knew in life. Those who have seen him describe a figure that appears as though stepping out from the past. His clothes are tattered and worn, hanging loosely on a form that seems both human and spectral. He often lingers near the plantation gates, pacing slowly or standing motionless, gazing across the fields. Witnesses report that he moves with purpose, yet there is an unmistakable weight of sorrow about him. Some interpret his presence as a guardian of the property, a figure tied to unfinished business, while others feel a more somber energy, as if he is condemned to walk these grounds for eternity. Despite the haunting quality of his appearance, the figure does not strike terror outright. Instead, he evokes an uneasy fascination, a lingering reminder that the past has not entirely faded from the land. The paranormal phenomena associated with Windsor Plantation are not limited to visual encounters. Many travelers report strange experiences involving their vehicles. As they approach the old gates, car engines will stall without explanation. Drivers recount the unsettling sensation of the engine sputtering and dying, leaving them stranded for moments that feel elongated and heavy. During these times, a whispering voice often fills the air around them, carried softly by the wind. The words are indistinct, sometimes mere fragments, yet the tone conveys a presence that is watching, observing, and perhaps communicating in a language lost to the living. These experiences leave visitors shaken, caught between fear and curiosity, unsure whether the events are supernatural or simply coincidence. The ruins and surrounding landscape amplify the eerie atmosphere of Windsor Plantation. The fields are punctuated by rusted gates, broken fences, and crumbling foundations, remnants of a life that once thrived here. Trees cast long shadows that stretch across the property, and the moss-laden limbs sway gently in the breeze, creating shapes that can appear human in low light. Even ordinary noises, a snapping branch or the rustle of leaf stake, on a haunting resonance amid the quiet of the grounds. Visitors often remark on a sense of heightened awareness, noticing small details, subtle movements, and sounds they might have otherwise ignored. In these spaces, the boundary between the past and present feels thin, and the air seems charged with the weight of history and lingering spirits. Locals have long believed that the spectral man is tied to the land itself. Stories suggest that he may have been a laborer, a caretaker, or someone who died tragically on the property. His presence is said to appear most frequently near the gates, though glimpses have been reported across the fields and near the ruins of outbuildings. Witnesses often describe a mix of sadness and intent in his demeanor, a figure that seems aware of the living but unable or unwilling to cross into their world. In this sense, Windsor Plantation is less a haunted site in the traditional sense and more a place where the past asserts itself through a single, enduring presence. In addition to visual and auditory phenomena, some visitors report physical sensations when approaching the gates. A sudden chill in the air, the inexplicable heaviness of the atmosphere, and the feeling of being watched are commonly cited. These subtle touches heighten the tension and leave a lasting impression, especially when combined with the sight of the spectral man or the sound of whispering voices. For those sensitive to the environment, the experience is immersive, drawing them deeper into the haunting and blurring the line between observer and participant. Photographers and ghost enthusiasts have documented numerous unexplained occurrences at Windsor. Orbs of light appear near the gates, moving in ways that defy natural explanation, while mists sometimes form around the ruins in patterns that seem deliberate. Many photographs capture anomalies that were not visible to the naked eye, lending credence to the experiences of those who have visited, whether interpreted as spirits, energy imprints, or atmospheric phenomena. These manifestations reinforce the Plantations' reputation as a place where the supernatural is woven into the very fabric of the land. The haunting of Windsor Plantation is also shaped by its location. Edisto Islands, wetlands, and marshes contribute to a landscape that can shift quickly in appearance, with fog rising from waterways and shadows stretching across open fields. The combination of ruins, mists, and natural landscape creates a setting that feels suspended in time. Visitors often describe a sense of walking in a space where history is not only remembered, but actively present, with the spectral man serving as a bridge between the past and the present. Those who linger near the gates at dusk or under the cover of night frequently report the most intense experiences. The figure in ragged clothing may appear more distinctly, pacing slowly as the wind carries faint whispers across the fields. Travelers driving onto the property may feel the weight of his presence pressing in, engines stalling and the air thick with energy. For many, these moments are both frightening and fascinating, offering a direct, tangible connection to a history that refuses to fade completely. Ultimately, Windsor Plantation is more than a site of historical interest. It is a place where the past reaches into the present in subtle, yet undeniable ways. The spectral man in ragged clothing, the stalled engines, and the whispering voices combine to create an experience that is immersive, mysterious, and unforgettable. In the quiet spaces around the gates, Windsor continues to hold its secrets, waiting for those who dare to witness the remnants of its restless past. Gervais Plantation, located near the Columbia area of South Carolina, stands as a quiet testament to the region's turbulent past. Though the main structures of the estate lie in ruin, the property remains a magnet for historians, curious visitors, and ghost hunters drawn to its unsettling reputation. The plantation is said to harbor lingering spirits, their presence manifesting in whispers, shadows, and unexplained movements that hint at lives once lived and never fully departed. Visitors to Gervais often begin their exploration among the ruins of the main house. Crumbling brick walls, fractured chimneys, and overgrown foundations give only a glimpse of the estate's former grandeur. Yet, amid the decay, many report unusual phenomena. One of the most consistent experiences involves disembodied voices. Travelers and locals alike claim to hear calls or murmurs rising from the ruins, often faint and fragmented, sometimes seeming to echo the cadence of human speech. These voices are rarely intelligible in full, but listeners sense urgency, longing, or fear, as if the spirits are trying to communicate across the boundary of life and death. The whispers of Gervais Plantation are particularly prominent after sunset. Visitors describe a sudden drop in temperature as twilight deepens, accompanied by the sensation of unseen eyes following their movements. The voices often appear to move with the listener, drifting through the ruins, carried on the wind, or echoing from different angles, depending on one's location. Ghost hunters and investigators have set up audio equipment in attempts to capture these phenomena, reporting faint murmurs and unintelligible words on recordings, sometimes pleading for release, other times repeating phrases over and over. These recordings lend an eerie weight to the stories, suggesting that the plantation is not only haunted by memory, but also by entities still bound to the grounds. Shadows add another layer to the haunting of Gervais Plantation. Visitors frequently report seeing shapes darting between trees or along the edges of the ruins. These movements are swift and elusive, often vanishing when approached. Some describe humanoid forms flitting through the underbrush, while others note darker, more amorphous figures that seem to blend with the night itself. Even during daylight, The interplay of sunlight and remnants of the crumbling structures can create illusions of movement. But nighttime experiences often feel far more deliberate, as if the spirits are aware of being observed. The plantation grounds themselves contribute significantly to the unsettling atmosphere. Overgrown paths, twisted branches, and dense foliage create natural corridors and shadows that amplify sound and obscure vision. A gust of wind can produce rustling noises that resemble footsteps, and the uneven terrain makes even ordinary movements echo strangely across the property. Visitors often report a heightened awareness of their surroundings, noticing subtle changes in air pressure, the distant shifting of leaves, or faint touches on skin that cannot be explained. These elements combine to create a setting in which the paranormal seems not only possible but tangible. Some local legends suggest that the spirits at Gervais are tied to the tragedies of the past. Like many plantations in the region, it was a place of both wealth and suffering, home to families who prospered and to enslaved individuals who endured hardship. The energy left behind by intense emotions, grief, and unresolved struggles is believed by some to have manifested in the disembodied voices and shadowy apparitions reported by visitors. Others speculate that the site contains residual haunting echoes of particular moments replaying across time, imprinted on the land and structures themselves. Photographers and paranormal investigators have documented strange anomalies at Gervais Plantation. Misty shapes sometimes appear in images where no natural fog is present, and shadows captured on camera occasionally take forms that seem distinctly human. Audio recordings have picked up whispers and low tones that were inaudible to the naked ear. While skeptics attribute these phenomena to environmental factors, technological artifacts, or optical illusions, the frequency and consistency of reports suggest that there is something uniquely charged about the plantation-esque grounds. Visitors often describe their experiences in a mix of awe and unease. Some report a sense of being followed while moving through the ruins, hearing footsteps echo where no one else is present. Others feel sudden cold spots, the air pressing in around them in a way that cannot be accounted for by natural causes. Even those who enter the plantation with skepticism admit to a palpable tension, a sense that unseen presences are observing and perhaps interacting with those who cross into their domain. The nighttime ambience of Gervais Plantation intensifies these experiences. Shadows grow longer, wind patterns shift unpredictably, and the ruins themselves take on an almost living quality. The combination of auditory and visual phenomena can make even a brief visit feel immersive, drawing attention to every sound, movement, and flicker of light. Witnesses often describe a sense of history pressing in, a reminder that the plantation was once filled with life and that echoes of those lives remain, lingering in corners, pathways, and empty rooms. For many, Gervais Plantation represents more than a haunted site. Is a place where the past asserts itself, where the stories of those who lived and died there are made manifest through subtle and not so subtle paranormal activity. The disembodied voices, fleeting shadows, and eerie sensations form a narrative that visitors experience firsthand, offering a hauntingly immersive connection to history. Those who leave the property often carry with them a lasting impression of the plantation's presence, a sense that the spirits are still active, still watching, and still bound to the land they once knew. In the quiet of the ruins, the whispers continue to echo. Shadows dart between the trees, and the faint murmur of voices begging for release can still be heard by those willing to listen. Gervais Plantation stands as a testament to the enduring power of memory, sorrow, and history, a place where the past refuses to remain silent, and where the curious may glimpse the lingering spirits that call the ruins home. Fairfield Plantation, located near Winnsboro, South Carolina, stands as a haunting reminder of the region's complex history. Though much of the estate has aged and fallen into disrepair, its presence remains commanding, with sprawling grounds, ancient oak trees, and the remnants of once grand buildings hinting at a life of wealth and influence. Yet beneath the surface of this historical elegance lies a legacy steeped in tragedy, legacy that some say continues to echo through the halls, manifesting in ways both subtle and chilling. Visitors to Fairfield often begin their exploration in the main house, where the creaking of old floors and the shadows cast by sunlight filtering through tall windows set the stage for unsettling experiences. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the slamming of doors. Guests describe walking through the hallways, only to hear doors swing shut violently without any apparent cause. The sound is sharp and startling, echoing through the empty rooms, yet no wind or mechanical fault explains it. Some report that the doors seem to slam repeatedly, almost as if the house itself is attempting to communicate or reenact moments from its past. The effect is disorienting, creating a sense that the plantation is alive with memory, replaying events long gone but not entirely forgotten. Even more unsettling are the reports of entire conversations occurring in empty rooms. Visitors recount hearing voices engaged in dialogue, phrases exchanged in tones that range from tender to harsh, laughter or arguments punctuating the air as though unseen actors are performing a scene from centuries past. The conversations are often complete and coherent, though none of the voices are visible. Guests have described listening to the murmured discussions as they move through the hallways, feeling both the pull of curiosity and the weight of unease. It is as though the plantation itself has preserved moments in time, replaying them in the still of night for those willing or, perhaps unlucky enough to hear. The main hallways are often the epicenter of these phenomena. The sounds of footsteps echo across the polished floors, though no living person walks there. Sometimes a whisper will accompany a step, soft and urgent, as though guiding or warning. The temperature can shift dramatically as well. Rooms that were warm moments before suddenly chill without explanation, creating an eerie contrast that heightens the sense of presence. Many visitors report a feeling of being watched, the sensation pressing subtly against their back or shoulders, even in areas where the house appears deserted. This awareness can be so intense that it seems as though the past is not merely remembered but actively participating in the present. The architecture of Fairfield Plantation seems to amplify these experiences. Tall ceilings, narrow corridors, and expansive staircases carry sounds in unusual ways, making footsteps, voices, and slamming doors resonate across distances. A creaking floorboard can sound like someone pacing deliberately above or behind, while a door closing in one hallway may seem synchronized with murmured phrases from another. Shadows stretch and shift in the flickering light, and visitors often report seeing shapes at the edges of their vision, silhouettes that vanish when looked at directly. These architectural elements combine with the plantation's history to create an environment where the ordinary is transformed into something profoundly unsettling. Some local lore suggests that the hauntings of Fairfield Plantation are tied to the tragedies of its past residents. Like many plantations in the South, it was the site of both privilege and suffering, home to wealthy families and the enslaved individuals whose lives were often marked by hardship and loss. The voices heard by visitors may be echoes of long-forgotten conversations. The emotional residue of sorrow, anger, and joy imprinted upon the house itself. The slamming doors, sudden chills, and footsteps could be manifestations of intense moments, preserved as if the building itself refuses to forget. Photographers and paranormal investigators have documented a number of strange occurrences at Fairfield. Images taken inside and outside the house often capture shadows or light anomalies that do not correspond to natural causes. Audio recordings sometimes reveal faint whispers or fragments of speech not audible to the human ear at the time. While skeptics attribute many of these phenomena to structural settling, drafts, or imagination, the sheer consistency of reports over decades lends a weight to the stories that is difficult to dismiss. Visitors often describe a complex mix of emotions while exploring Fairfield. There is a fascination in hearing the conversations of people long gone, an eerie thrill in sensing footsteps where no one walks, and a tension that builds as doors slam unexpectedly. These experiences can leave a lasting impression, creating memories that are as vivid as any historical fact or photograph. Many find themselves both drawn to and unnerved by the plantation, compelled to explore further while remaining acutely aware of the presence that seems to watch their every step. The surrounding grounds of Fairfield add to the haunting experience. Overgrown gardens, twisted trees, and crumbling fences contribute to a sense of isolation and mystery. Evening or early morning visits heighten the atmosphere, as long shadows stretch across the property and the soft sounds of wildlife mingle with the echoes of the house. In these moments, the boundary between past and present feels particularly thin, and the plantation's history seems to manifest not just in memory, but in physical, audible ways that engage all the senses. Ultimately, Fairfield Plantation is more than a historical site. It is a living archive of memory and emotion. The slamming doors, the phantom conversations, the chilling footsteps, and the shifting shadows form a complex tapestry of haunting phenomena that connect visitors to the lives once lived here. The plantation does not merely preserve history, it makes it tangible, a presence that can be felt as much as seen. Those who walk the halls of Fairfield often leave with stories they cannot fully explain, moments where the past seems to play out before them in whispers, footsteps, and slamming doors. The estate's tragic legacy resonates still, carried in the air, the shadows, and the sounds that linger long after the living have departed. Fairfield Plantation remains a place where history refuses to rest quietly, instead reaching out to those willing to listen to the echoes of its enduring past. True Blue Plantation, located in Georgetown, South Carolina, is a place where history lingers, not only in the landscape, but in the very air itself. The plantation's vast fields, stretching toward the horizon, tell a story of a past that was both prosperous and painful. While much of the estate has changed over time, the legacy of those who worked and lived here continues to echo in subtle, haunting ways. Travelers along the roads that bordered the plantation often report experiences that suggest the voices of the past have not entirely faded, carried on the wind in whispers and faint song. Visitors to True Blue Plantation frequently describe an uncanny sense of presence when walking through the fields. The wide expanses of rice paddies, meandering paths, and old oak trees create an environment that is both serene and strangely charged. Many who wander these grounds report hearing faint singing, sometimes rhythmic, sometimes melodic, seemingly emanating from no specific location. The voices are soft, almost ethereal, as though drifting across time from the lives of those who once toiled under the hot southern sun. Some say the songs carry a deep sense of sorrow, while others hear tones of resilience, a subtle testament to the endurance of the human spirit, even in the harshest conditions. Travelers passing the plantation along nearby roads often share similar experiences. Some recount hearing faint melodies carried on the wind at dusk or in the early morning when the air is still. The songs are described as low and haunting, just barely audible over the natural sounds of the marshes and fields. Many insist the voices sound unmistakably human, as if those long gone are reaching across the decades to make themselves heard. Cars have been known to slow inexplicably while drivers strain to listen, and passengers report shivers as the music seems to surround them, fading as suddenly as it appears. The plantation grounds themselves seem to enhance the otherworldly quality of these sounds. Ancient oaks, with limbs draped in Spanish moss, create shaded corridors that distort perception, bending light and muffling sound in ways that make the ordinary feel extraordinary. Gentle breezes can carry distant noises in unpredictable ways, and shadows cast by the trees seem to twist and shift, creating the sensation that the fields are not entirely empty. Many visitors describe a heightened awareness of their surroundings, noticing small details, the sway of reeds, the ripple of water, the soft movement of leaves, as if the environment itself is alive with memory. Those who study or explore True Blue Plantation often link the haunting to the lives of the enslaved workers who labored there. The rice fields and surrounding structures were once sites of grueling work, long hours, and unending demands. Scholars and locals alike suggest that the intensity of emotion experienced by those individuals may have left a lingering imprint on the land. The faint singing heard by visitors could be interpreted as remnants of songs sung to maintain morale, to express sorrow, or to communicate across long distances. In this sense, the plantation carries not only the memory of human hardship, but also traces of cultural resilience, a voice that refuses to be silenced. Photographers and ghost enthusiasts have documented unusual occurrences on the property. In some images, mists appear to hover above the fields, forming shapes that resemble human figures or clusters of movement. Shadows often appear deeper and more defined than natural light conditions would suggest, and reflections in water-filled rice paddies occasionally reveal distortions that cannot be explained. While skeptics attribute many of these phenomena to environmental factors, the frequency and consistency of reports suggest a deeper, perhaps spiritual, resonance with the history of the plantation. Walking through the plantation, visitors often feel a subtle pressure or awareness that seems to follow them. The faint singing, whether perceived audibly or internally, carries with it a weight of history, compelling listeners to reflect on the lives of those who endured hardship and struggle in the fields. Some have reported chills along the back of their necks, a fleeting sense of someone watching, or the sensation of being accompanied by invisible footsteps among the tall grasses. These experiences are often described as profound rather than threatening, a haunting that invites contemplation rather than fear. The natural landscape of True Blue Plantation, its marshes, streams, and winding roads plays a significant role in shaping the haunting experience. The quiet, still moments of dawn and dusk amplify the sounds carried on the wind, while the rustling of leaves and the distant call of birds provide a backdrop that blends seamlessly with the faint melodies. Travelers note that the experience is not limited to those on foot. Those driving past the plantation on quiet roads have also reported hearing the soft songs, an uncanny reminder that the voices of the past extend beyond the boundaries of the fields themselves. The haunting of True Blue Plantation is a testament to the enduring presence of history, emotion, and memory. The faint singing, whispers, and subtle awareness of being observed all combine to create an immersive experience that connects the living to the lives of those who came before. Visitors often leave the property with a profound sense of reflection, feeling that they have glimpsed something beyond the ordinary, a trace of humanity that persists despite the passage of centuries. Ultimately, True Blue Plantation is more than a historical site. It is a living archive of emotion and memory. The voices carried by the wind, the faint melodies echoing across the fields, and the presence felt by those who traverse the grounds all serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. For those willing to listen, the plantation offers a rare opportunity to encounter the lingering spirits of the people who shaped its history. Their songs are haunting and enduring, testament to resilience, sorrow, and the echoes of lives long departed. Friendfield Plantation, located in Georgetown, South Carolina, is a place where the past refuses to remain silent. Once a sprawling estate marked by wealth and labor, the plantation's grounds are now a blend of overgrown fields, crumbling structures, and ancient oaks whose branches sweep low across winding paths. Though the site draws visitors for its historical significance, many come away speaking of experiences that transcend the ordinary. Ghostly figures, whispered prayers, and unexplained presences give the grounds a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the Low Country. Those who have ventured onto the plantation after dusk often report seeing apparitions carrying lanterns through the fields and pathways. These figures are described as faint, but discernible, their light bobbing and flickering in a manner that seems purposeful. Observers say that the apparitions walk with deliberate steps, sometimes pausing to look across the fields or along the edges of old structures. The lanterns they carry cast a warm, almost human glow, illuminating their surroundings in a way that contrasts starkly with the darkness of the night. Many visitors report a profound mix of awe and unease at witnessing these ghostly wanderers, unsure whether they are spirits of former residents, laborers, or caretakers of the plantation's history. Even those who do not see the lantern-bearing figures often feel the plantation's presence in more subtle ways. A common report is the sensation of being watched or followed, an invisible awareness that moves with them as they walk the grounds. Some describe sudden chills or the inexplicable brushing of air along their arms and shoulders, as though an unseen hand is nearby. The sense of presence is heightened near the ruins of the main house, along pathways lined with moss-covered trees, and in the shadowed corners where old foundations remain. Visitors often speak of a growing tension as they move deeper into the property, a quiet insistence that they are not alone. Whispers are another striking feature of Plantations. Hauntings. Guests describe faint murmurs that drift on the wind, voices speaking prayers in languages that have long been forgotten. The words are rarely intelligible to modern ears, yet they carry an unmistakable sense of reverence and solemnity. These whispers often appear to follow those who walk through the fields or stand near the remnants of the Plantations buildings, fading when attention is drawn to their source. Many interpret the prayers as echoes of enslaved people, whose spiritual practices, fears, and hopes were intimately tied to the land. The auditory phenomenon lends a sacred, somber dimension to the haunting, making it feel less like a thrill and more like a communion with history. The architecture and terrain of Plantation enhance the haunting experience. The ruins of the main house and outbuildings create narrow corridors, shadowed alcoves, and fractured spaces that play tricks on perception. A simple gust of wind can carry distant sounds in ways that seem deliberate, while the sway of trees and moss-draped limbs casts shadows that appear almost human. Even the crunch of gravel beneath the visitor's feet can echo unnaturally across the property, blending with the whispers and footsteps of unseen figures. These environmental elements make the grounds feel alive, charged with energies that cannot be easily explained. Many paranormal investigators and photographers have documented unusual phenomena. Infield images sometimes reveal floating lights or shadowy figures near the ruins, while audio recordings have captured faint chanting and murmured phrases. Some investigators report a tangible sensation of pressure in certain areas, as if the land itself is imbued with memory, while skeptics suggest environmental factors, equipment anomalies, or imagination. The sheer consistency of these reports over decades has reinforced the Plantation's reputation as a place where the past lingers with unusual intensity. Visitors often recount a profound emotional response when exploring the grounds. There is a mixture of fear, respect, and awe that accompanies the visual and auditory phenomena. Witnesses report that even when the lantern-bearing figures vanish or the whispers fade, a lingering sense of history remains palpable. It is as though the plantation itself refuses to allow its stories to be forgotten, compelling those who walk its grounds to acknowledge the lives and spirits that shaped it. The nighttime ambience intensifies these experiences. As darkness falls, shadows lengthen across the fields, and the faint glow of lanterns becomes more pronounced in the distance. The wind carries the whispers and murmurs more clearly, and every sound an owl calling, leaves rustling, or branches scraping against a window takes on an otherworldly quality. Many visitors say that their senses are heightened, with ordinary features of the landscape taking on subtle, uncanny details. The interplay of light, sound, and shadow creates an atmosphere that is immersive, almost cinematic, and deeply memorable. Some legends suggest that the apparitions may represent the spirits of enslaved individuals who walked the fields long ago, keeping watch over the land even in death. Others believe the figures may include caretakers or family members who remain tethered to the plantation by loyalty, unresolved business, or the weight of memory. Regardless of their origin, the presence of these lantern-bearing figures and the accompanying whispers reinforces the idea that the plantation is not merely a relic of history, but a living repository of memory, emotion, and lingering energy. Even in daylight, the plantation retains a quiet, reflective power. The ancient trees, overgrown pathways, and remnants of buildings invite contemplation, but the experiences reported at night leave the deepest impression. Visitors often leave with stories of fleeting lights, soft voices, and a pervasive sense of being observed, memories that stay with them long after their visit ends. The combination of visual apparitions, auditory phenomena, and the palpable sense of history makes Plantation a site where the boundary between the living and the past feels extraordinarily thin. Ultimately, Plantation is more than a historical location. It is a place where the echoes of lives long gone remain audible, visible, and profoundly felt. The lantern-bearing apparitions, whispered prayers in forgotten languages, and unseen presences moving among the fields create an immersive experience that reminds visitors of the plantation's enduring connection to its past. Those who walk its grounds are offered a rare encounter with history as something alive, something that speaks, watches, and remembers. Laurel Hill Plantation, situated on Edisto Island, South Carolina, is a site where the beauty of the Low Country collides with a chilling, lingering past. Surrounded by sprawling marshes, winding rivers, and ancient live oaks draped with Spanish moss, the plantation is as visually captivating as it is historically rich. Yet beyond its picturesque landscape lies an unsettling reputation. Guests and visitors have long reported paranormal phenomena that make Laurel Hill one of the most haunted locations in the region, with experiences ranging from rattling chains to shadowy figures that vanish without a trace. Many visitors describe the unsettling sound of chains rattling along the riverbanks that border the plantation. The noise often appears in the dead of night, echoing across the water in a metallic clatter that cannot be explained by wind or wildlife. Some say the sound begins softly, like distant shackles brushing together, and then grows louder, as if approaching. Those brave enough to investigate the source often find only the quiet river and the still trees, with no sign of anyone present. The metallic echoes create a haunting rhythm that resonates with the plantation's dark history, leaving listeners with the uneasy sensation that the past is far from gone. In addition to auditory phenomena, Laurel Hill is known for sightings of a tall, shadowy figure. Guests report glimpsing this presence along the riverbanks or among the trees. Its form dark and indistinct, standing silently before seeming to melt into the surrounding darkness. The figure is often described as unnaturally tall, with broad shoulders that make it loom in the dim light, yet it lacks distinguishable features. Some witnesses feel an intense, almost oppressive gaze, as if the figure is observing them with purpose. Others describe a fleeting sensation of being followed, only to turn and find the figure has disappeared, leaving behind a lingering chill in the air. Visitors walking the grounds during dusk or nightfall often report an atmosphere thick with tension. The sounds of nocturnal wildlife, frogs croaking, insects buzzing, water gently lapping against the banks blend with unnatural echoes, creating a disorienting effect. A sudden rattle of chains or a fleeting shadow can transform an otherwise peaceful walk into a deeply unsettling experience. Guests often remark on the sudden shift in temperature when these phenomena occur. A warm breeze replaced by a sharp, inexplicable chill, as if the plantation itself is aware of their presence. The landscape of Laurel Hill enhances the eerie experiences. The riverbanks wind through dense foliage and marshes, creating natural corridors of shadow and light. Twisted roots, moss-covered trees, and uneven ground distort perspective, making movements in the distance appear closer or more threatening than they truly are. Fog that rises from the river in early morning or late evening can form shapes that resemble human figures, enhancing the sense of spectral presence. Visitors often report feeling a heightened awareness, noticing details they might normally ignore: the ripple of water, a sudden movement in the shadows, the creak of a branch overhead, all contributing to the sense that they are not alone. Local legends surrounding Laurel Hill often link these hauntings to the plantation's history. Like many estates in the Low Country, Laurel Hill was the site of immense wealth alongside human suffering. Enslaved workers toiled for long hours under harsh conditions, and the echoes of their labor and pain are believed by some to have left an imprint on the land. The rattling chains may symbolize the weight of bondage, the lingering sound of confinement carried across generations. Similarly, the tall, shadowy figure is sometimes thought to represent a restless spirit, bound to the plantation by unresolved anguish or unfinished business. Photographers and paranormal investigators have captured unexplained phenomena on the plantation's grounds. Images often reveal faint lights or shapes near the riverbanks, sometimes resembling human silhouettes. Audio recordings have picked up the faint clink of chains and low, indecipherable murmurs that vanish when listeners attempt to locate the source. Even those who approach the site with skepticism note the consistency of reports and recordings, suggesting that the strange occurrences are not mere coincidence. Many visitors describe a profound emotional response when experiencing these phenomena. The rattling chains evoke a sense of historical weight, reminding listeners that the plantation's past was not only wealthy and opulent but also defined by hardship and oppression. The shadowy figure's silent observation elicits a mixture of fear, curiosity, and awe, as if the visitor is briefly granted a glimpse into a world that exists just beyond the perception of the living. These experiences often leave an impression that lingers long after guests have departed, shaping their memories of the plantation in ways that are both haunting and unforgettable. Even during daylight, the plantation carries an aura of quiet tension. The trees' long shadows stretch across the riverbanks, and the murmurs of wildlife intermingle with faint gusts of wind that can sound like whispers. Photographers report capturing unexplained shadows and light anomalies even in broad daylight, and visitors speak of a subtle, almost imperceptible sensation of being watched. The haunting is not confined to night alone. It is woven into the very fabric of the land, present for those attuned to its whispers. Ultimately, Laurel Hill Plantation is more than a historical site. It is a place where the past continues to reach out to the present. The rattling chains, the silent, tall figure, and the pervasive sense of observation create an environment in which visitors are made aware of the plantation's lingering memory. Those who walk its grounds are confronted with the echoes of lives long gone, a haunting that is both somber and compelling, a reminder that the history of Laurel Hill is never entirely at rest. Richfield Plantation, located in Beaufort County, South Carolina, is a site where history and the unexplained seem to coexist in quiet tension. Once a thriving estate, the plantation now features overgrown fields, ancient trees, and the remnants of its original buildings, all serving as reminders of a past filled with both prosperity and hardship. While its historical significance draws many visitors, Richfield has gained a reputation for phenomena that go beyond the ordinary, particularly the eerie laughter of children echoing across the grounds long after the plantation's original inhabitants have passed. Visitors walking the plantation's grounds often recount the unsettling experience of hearing playful giggles at night. The laughter is soft and light, almost joyous in tone, yet it carries a haunting quality that unsettles anyone unprepared for it. Some describe the sound as coming from the edge of the woods, from between the ruins of old structures, or from the fields themselves. As if unseen children are running freely across the property, the noises are remarkably precise, alternating between shrill, carefree giggles and the quiet, fleeting sound of whispers. Many witnesses report that when they call out or attempt to locate the source, the laughter abruptly stops, leaving only the rustle of leaves or the gentle creaking of tree branches. The phenomenon is most commonly experienced during the late evening or early night hours, when the plantation is quiet and the only sounds are those of nature. The subtle cries of nocturnal birds and the soft wind through the trees create an environment in which the laughter is immediately noticeable, sharp against the background of otherwise ordinary night sounds. Guests often describe a sense of anticipation, a heightened awareness that amplifies every footstep, snap of a twig, or rustle of leaves. The result is an atmosphere that is simultaneously enchanting and unnerving, where the plantation feels alive with unseen presences. Many visitors note a curious paradox about the laughter. Despite its playful tone, it often evokes a chill, a sense of something missing or out of place. The sounds of joy exist in stark contrast to the knowledge of the plantation's past marked by the labor of enslaved individuals and the weight of history. Some theorists suggest that the laughter may be the residual echo of children who once lived and worked on the plantation, spirits imprinted on the land by memory and emotion. Others believe it may be a residual haunting, a looping energy that manifests repeatedly without conscious awareness, echoing through time as if the plantation itself is replaying fragments of its history. The landscape of Richfield Plantation enhances these haunting experiences. Overgrown fields, ancient live oaks, and the remains of outbuildings create a natural maze where shadows move unpredictably, and sound carries in unexpected ways. Even in daylight, the plantation has a quiet, somber presence, but at night, the interaction of light, shadow, and space transforms the grounds into an environment where perception becomes fluid. A faint rustle can sound like footsteps running across the field, and branches swaying in the wind may resemble small, fleeting figures darting from tree to tree. These elements work together to amplify the sensations associated with the laughter, making it feel immediate and personal to anyone walking the grounds. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts have long taken an interest in Richfield Plantation. Many have recorded audio capturing the faint giggles, often too soft to hear without amplification, but clearly discernible upon review. Photographers occasionally capture anomalies in their images' shapes in the distance that resemble small children or orbs of light moving across fields where no human presence exists. Skeptics sometimes attribute these occurrences to wind, animals, or the power of suggestion. Yet the consistency of reports over decades suggests that there is something distinctly unusual about the site. Visitors also report a tangible emotional component to the haunting. While the laughter is playful in tone, there is often an accompanying sense of nostalgia, melancholy, or longing. Some describe a feeling of being observed, as if invisible eyes are following their movements, paired with the faint sensation of someone brushing past. These subtle cues combine with the auditory phenomenon to create an experience that is immersive and deeply affecting, leaving a lasting impression on those who encounter it. Interestingly, the laughter is often described as moving through space. It may start near one building, travel across a field, and fade near a tree line, giving the impression that the unseen children are moving freely about the property. Guests report that the sounds are sometimes rhythmic, almost like a game being played, yet impossible to trace or interact with. Attempts to respond or speak to the voices often result in silence, as though the spirits are aware of the living but choose to remain elusive. The combination of sound, space, and atmosphere at Richfield Plantation makes it a uniquely haunting experience. The plantation's history, visible in the ruins and landscape, provides context for the occurrences, yet the phenomena themselves transcend mere historical curiosity. The playful, ghostly laughter of children transforms the grounds into a place where the past and present intermingle, creating an environment that is as emotionally resonant as it is mysterious. Ultimately, Richfield Plantation stands as a testament to the persistence of memory, the echoes of lives once lived, and the strange ways in which history can leave its mark on the present. The laughter of unseen children, heard drifting across fields and ruins, reminds visitors that some presences refuse to fade quietly. For those walking the plantation at night, every rustle of leaves, every shift of shadow, and every faint giggle carries with it a connection to the past, a haunting yet poignant reminder that Richfield's story is alive, still unfolding, and waiting to be experienced. Otranto Plantation, located near Charleston, South Carolina, is a site where history and haunting converge in a manner that leaves a lasting impression on those who visit. Once a grand estate, the plantation now shows signs of age and neglect, with weathered walls, broken shutters, and sprawling grounds that hint at a lifelong past. Yet it is not only the decay of the buildings that captures attention. Otranto has earned a reputation for paranormal activity, with reports of ghostly figures and commanding voices echoing through the air, creating an atmosphere of tension and unease that visitors describe as unforgettable. Many who have explored the old house report seeing the spectral figure of a man in the upper windows. This presence is often described as tall, immaculately dressed in clothing reminiscent of the plantation's heyday, with a stern and watchful demeanor. Guests recount spotting him standing motionless behind the glass, staring outward as though assessing all who approached. His gaze is said to carry authority and gravity, filling observers with a sense of unease that persists long after they leave the property. Some claim the figure appears only in peripheral vision, vanishing when directly looked at, while others see him clearly, framed by the dim light of the decaying interior. The visual encounter is frequently accompanied by auditory phenomena. Guests often hear whispers drifting through the rooms or carried on the breeze outside, always in a stern, commanding tone that seems to issue an unspoken warning. The words are rarely fully intelligible, but the message is unmistakable. Leave this place. The voice has an authority that cannot be ignored, a resonance that reaches beyond ordinary sound to affect the listener on a deeper, almost instinctual level. Visitors describe feeling compelled to obey, a mixture of fear and respect prompting them to step back or retreat entirely from the areas where the presence is most pronounced. The haunting at Otranto Plantation is not limited to these direct experiences. Many report a pervasive sense of being watched while on the grounds, even when the ghostly man is not visible. The sensation is subtle, at first a twinge of awareness, a feeling of eyes following their movements, but it grows stronger as visitors move through the house or linger near the windows. Some describe a tightness in the air, a pressure that seems to push against their chest or shoulders, intensifying the impression that the plantation itself is alive with a presence that demands acknowledgement. The plantation's architecture contributes significantly to the eerie atmosphere. Tall, narrow windows, long hallways, and high ceilings create spaces that amplify sound and distort perception. Footsteps echo unnaturally along the wooden floors, while the wind whistling through broken shutters can sound like murmured words or distant movement. Shadows stretch across rooms in ways that make ordinary objects appear to shift or move, and the fading light at dusk casts the interior in a half-world of shadow and form. Visitors often remark on the sensation of being caught between the present and the past, where every glance and sound seems to carry a story that is not fully revealed. Local lore surrounding Otranto suggests that the ghostly figure may be connected to the plantation's turbulent history. Like many estates in the Charleston area, it was a site of both wealth and suffering. The stern presence of the man could represent a former owner, someone who maintained control over the estate with rigid authority, or perhaps a figure tied to unresolved events in the household. Whatever his origin, the consistency of sightings and the commanding nature of the whispers point to a spirit that is aware of those who enter and intent on asserting its dominance even after death. Photographers and paranormal investigators have documented unusual phenomena at Otranto Plantation. Images taken through the windows sometimes reveal shadowy figures or distortions where none were visible to the naked eye. Audio recordings have captured whispers and murmurs that were inaudible at the time of filming, as well as unexplained creaking and shifting sounds from within the old house. Visitors report that even those approaching with skepticism often leave with a profound sense that something beyond explanation resides there, a presence both commanding and inescapable. Guests frequently describe a psychological impact from their experiences. The combination of visual encounters, commanding whispers, and the sense of being watched creates a heightened awareness, making each sound, movement, and shadow feel laden with meaning. Many feel a mixture of fear, reverence, and fascination, as though the plantation has imposed its own set of rules on those who enter. The effect lingers long after the visit, coloring memories of the property with a sense of mystery and unease. Even during daylight, the plantation exudes a subtle tension. The ghostly figure is more difficult to perceive, but the sensation of presence, the long shadows cast by the windows, and the quiet creaks of an old house maintain an undercurrent of unease. Photographers and historians alike have noted that Otranto carries an energy that is palpable, a sense that the estate is more than a collection of buildings and land. It is a vessel for memory, authority, and lingering spirit. Ultimately, Otranto Plantation is more than a historic site. It is a location where the past asserts itself in ways that are immediate and deeply affecting. The tall, shadowy figure in the windows and the commanding whispers create an environment in which visitors are made aware of the plantation's lingering presence. Every glance toward the old house, every step across the creaking floors, and every sense of observation reinforces the idea that history at Otranto is alive, watched, and waiting. Those who walk its grounds are not merely observers of a bygone era. They are participants in a lingering, spectral narrative that continues to unfold with each visitor who crosses its threshold. Kinloch Plantation, located near Georgetown, South Carolina, is a property steeped in history and mystery. Once a bustling estate surrounded by fields and forests, the plantation now stands as a haunting reminder of the past, its structures weathered and its grounds overgrown. Visitors are drawn not only to its historical significance but also to the strange phenomena reported over decades, from phantom lights darting across the fields to whispers that seem to respond to questions. Kinloch has earned a reputation as one of the most enigmatic and haunted sites in the Low Country. Those who explore the plantation after dark often report seeing strange lights moving unpredictably across the property. These lights are described as small, bright, and flickering, appearing in areas where no one could reasonably be present. Observers note that the lights dart rapidly from one location to another, sometimes hovering in place for a few seconds before disappearing entirely. Some guests describe them as lantern-like, glowing with an otherworldly warmth, while others claim the lights resemble orbs, pulsating softly as if alive. Regardless of form, the phenomenon is startling, and those who witness it often report an immediate sense of being observed or even followed by an unseen presence. The experience of the lights is often accompanied by auditory phenomena. Paranormal investigators have long frequented Kinloch Plantation, setting up audio equipment to capture unexplained sounds. On many recordings, faint voices can be heard, sometimes responding to questions asked in the dark. These whispers are often indecipherable at first, but with careful listening, investigators report hearing words or phrases that seem to address them directly. The effect is both fascinating and unnerving, as if the spirits tied to the plantation are aware of the living and are capable of interacting with them in subtle ways. Visitors report similar experiences, describing moments when a whisper seems to answer a question spoken aloud, or when multiple voices murmur in response to their presence. The property itself contributes to the haunting atmosphere. Overgrown fields, dense tree lines, and the ruins of old structures create an environment where perception can easily be distorted. Shadows stretch and shift in the flickering light, making movement appear where none exists. The uneven terrain amplifies sound, allowing footsteps or rustling leaves to echo unnaturally across the grounds. Many visitors describe a feeling of heightened awareness, noticing every creak of a floorboard, the distant hum of insects, or the soft brush of wind through the trees. These ordinary environmental factors combine with the unexplained phenomena to create an immersive and often unsettling experience. Local lore suggests that the phantom lights and voices are tied to the plantation's complex history. Kinloch, like many estates in the region, was a site of both wealth and suffering. Enslaved workers labored in the fields for long hours, and the weight of their toil and sorrow may have left an imprint on the land. The lights could represent lingering energy from past events, manifestations of spirits tied to the property, or perhaps a form of residual haunting, replaying moments from the past. The whispers, especially those that seem to respond to questions, hint at a consciousness that refuses to rest, interacting with visitors in ways that are both subtle and profound. Photographers and ghost hunters have documented numerous anomalies on the grounds of Kinloch Plantation. Images sometimes capture floating orbs of light where no sources exist, and recordings often reveal faint murmurs or phrases that were not audible to the human ear at the time. Investigators report occasional temperature drops, sudden breezes, and the sensation of being watched, all of which contribute to the perception of a living, interactive haunting. Even those approaching the site skeptically often leave with a sense that something inexplicable resides there, something that cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence or imagination. The emotional impact of visiting Kinloch Plantation is frequently described as intense. Witnesses often feel a mixture of awe, curiosity, and unease as they encounter the lights or hear whispers from unseen sources. Some report chills running along their spine, a tightness in the chest, or the unmistakable sense that they are being observed by unseen eyes. The combination of auditory and visual phenomena makes the experience immersive, creating a connection between the living and the lingering presence of the past. Visitors describe moments when the lights appear to guide them, retreat when approached, or respond to their questions in subtle ways, leaving an impression that is difficult to shake. The phenomenon at Kinloch is not limited to night alone, though it is most pronounced in the darkness. Even in twilight, the grounds seem to shimmer with hidden energy. Shadows play tricks on perception, and shapes that resemble figures appear and vanish among the trees and ruins. The environment amplifies the sense of otherworldliness, making each sound and movement feel charged with meaning. Whether walking through the fields, exploring the ruins, or pausing by the edge of the tree line, visitors often feel a palpable presence. A reminder that the plantation's past is never entirely gone. Ultimately, Kinloch Plantation is more than a historical site. It is a location where memory, emotion, and unexplained energy converge, leaving an indelible impression on those who visit. The phantom lights, responsive whispers, and pervasive sense of being observed create an atmosphere in which the past asserts itself, demanding recognition and attention. For those who walk its grounds, Kinloch offers a haunting yet compelling experience, rare opportunity to witness a place where history is alive. Voices still linger, and the unseen remains undeniably present. Barony Plantation, located in Beaufort, South Carolina, stands as a silent testament to the passage of time. Once a thriving estate, the plantation has long since fallen into ruins. Its grand house reduced to crumbling walls, overgrown gardens, and fractured pathways, while the site attracts visitors for its historical significance. It is the stories of lingering spirits that have cemented Barony Plantation's reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the Low Country. Among the most persistent tales is that of a ghostly woman dressed in black, a spectral presence said to roam the ruins under the cover of night. Those who visit the plantation after dusk often report encountering the woman in black near the decaying structures. She is described as tall and slender, her long, flowing garments dark as night, her features indistinct but undeniably human. Witnesses recount seeing her standing silently among the ruins, sometimes near a broken archway or along a moss-covered wall, as if contemplating the passage of years or guarding the memories of the estate. Her presence is ethereal yet commanding, a stark contrast to the silent decay surrounding her. When approached, she does not flee in the conventional sense, but instead seems to melt into the mist, vanishing before the observer's eyes and leaving only the faint outline of her form. The appearance of the woman is often accompanied by other subtle phenomena. Visitors speak of sudden chills in the air, unexplained breezes that carry no scent of wind, and a faint feeling of being watched even when the figure is not visible. Some have reported hearing soft whispers, indistinct but melodic, drifting from the ruins, as if the ghostly woman herself is speaking, or the stones themselves are recalling her presence. The combination of visual and sensory cues creates an atmosphere of unease, where the ordinary sounds of the night rustling leaves, distant owls, or the hum of insects take on an uncanny significance. Many who explore Barony Plantation describe the experience as emotionally charged. The ruins, with their moss-draped walls and fractured pathways, evoke a sense of loss and remembrance. The spectral woman in black embodies this feeling, a visual representation of memory and sorrow tied to the plantation's past. Witnesses often report a mix of awe and apprehension, a fascination with the ghostly figure tempered by the instinctive response to step back or retreat. Her presence is rarely threatening. Rather, it carries an air of solemnity, as if she is a guardian of the plantation's history, bound to the estate by ties that transcend death. The environment of Barony Plantation enhances the haunting experience. Overgrown fields, tangled vines, and decaying structures create a landscape where shadows and light interact in strange ways. Mist often rolls in from nearby marshes, wrapping the ruins in a soft veil that obscures the edges of the world. It is within this fog that the woman is most frequently seen, her black attire merging with the gray haze until she becomes almost indistinguishable from the mist itself. The visual effect is mesmerizing and eerie, leaving witnesses questioning whether they have seen a spirit or a trick of the light and fog. Local lore connects the apparition to the Plantations' history. Barony was a site of both wealth and hardship, and the woman in black is thought by some to be tied to the lives of those who lived and labored there. Some suggest she may have been a member of the family who once owned the estate, mourning losses or overseeing the property even in death. Others believe she could represent a worker or caretaker whose spirit remains bound to the land. Her presence, a reminder of the toil and sorrow that accompanied the plantation's operation. The ambiguity of her identity adds to the haunting, allowing each visitor to project their own interpretation onto the figure, making the encounter deeply personal. Photographers and paranormal investigators have documented unusual occurrences at Barony Plantation. Images often capture faint, shadowy shapes near the ruins, sometimes resembling a human figure in flowing dark clothing. Audio recordings occasionally pick up whispers, faint footsteps, or unexplained sounds that are difficult to attribute to natural causes. Even for skeptics, the consistency of these reports over time lends weight to the tales, suggesting that the woman in black is more than a simple legend. Visitors consistently report a lingering effect after encountering the apparition. Even after leaving the ruins, many describe a sense of being followed by memory, a faint echo of the presence that remains in the mind. The combination of visual, auditory, and atmospheric elements creates an experience that is immersive and lasting. Walks through the ruins are punctuated by sudden glimpses, fleeting shadows, and the ever-present possibility of seeing the woman again, making the plantation an unforgettable destination for those drawn to both history and the unexplained. Ultimately, Barony Plantation is more than a collection of ruins. It is a repository of memory, emotion, and lingering presence. The ghostly woman in black embodies the haunting nature of the estate, moving silently among the crumbling walls and misty fields, a spectral guardian of the past. Her appearances remind visitors that the history of Barony is alive in ways that extend beyond textbooks and photographs, existing in the air, the shadows, and the whispers that drift through the night. For those who walk its grounds, the ruins offer a hauntingly vivid connection to the lives and stories that have shaped this place, leaving an impression that persists long after the night ends. Henrietta Plantation, located near McClellanville, South Carolina, is a place where history and the unexplained intertwine, creating an atmosphere both beautiful and haunting. Once a thriving estate, surrounded by sprawling fields and moss-draped oaks, the plantation now stands largely empty, its main house showing signs of age and abandonment. Though the structures have long since fallen silent in a practical sense, visitors report that the property carries a living presence, a subtle but persistent echo of the past. Among the most frequently cited phenomena are the sounds of music drifting from the house and the chilling whispers of old hymns that seem to linger in the air long after the last note fades. Guests who explore Henrietta Plantation after dark often recount hearing music emanating from the main house, a melody that seems impossible given the building's empty state. The tunes are described as soft and delicate, often resembling piano or organ music, though no instruments are visible. Some hear slow, deliberate pieces, almost solemn in tone, while others report lively melodies that drift through the open windows and along the porches. The music appears to have no clear source, moving from room to room as though carried by invisible hands. Visitors often pause, uncertain whether they are hearing the distant echo of a recording, a trick of the wind, or something far more extraordinary. Alongside the music, whispers frequently accompany the experience. Guests describe hearing fragments of old hymns, sung softly in voices that carry the weight of memory. The words are sometimes clear enough to recognize familiar phrases, yet other times they remain indecipherable, like language slipping through time. These whispers are not threatening in a conventional sense, but they evoke a chilling atmosphere, especially when they seem to echo directly behind the listener or drift along empty hallways. Those who dare step inside the house often report a heightened sense of awareness, noticing the subtle creak of floorboards, the rustle of curtains, or the sudden change in air pressure, as though the building itself is alive. The haunting experience at Henrietta is enhanced by the plantation's architecture and natural environment. The main house, though weathered, features tall ceilings, long corridors, and large windows that carry sound in unexpected ways. A faint breeze passing through broken panes can amplify distant noises, making ordinary environmental sounds resemble music or whispers. Overgrown gardens and moss-laden trees surround the house, their shadows shifting with the wind to create an ever-changing landscape that adds to the sense of mystery. Guests often report that even when the music and whispers cease, the atmosphere retains a charged quality, as if the very walls are imbued with memory. Local lore suggests that the music and hymns are tied to the plantation's past. Harrietta, like many estates in the region, was a site of both prosperity and hardship. The melodies could represent the echoes of family gatherings, social events, or private devotionals that took place within the house. The hymns, in particular, may be remnants of spiritual practices, prayers, or moments of solace offered by those who lived and worked on the property. Whether these sounds are residual haunting, synergies imprinted on the building, or the conscious activity of spirits, they provide a powerful connection to the lives and emotions of the past. Photographers and paranormal investigators have documented unusual occurrences at Harrietta Plantation. Some images reveal faint lights or shadowy shapes inside the house, especially near the windows and hallways where the music is most frequently reported. Audio recordings have captured the soft strains of piano or organ-like sounds, as well as faint chanting or singing that was not audible at the time of recording. Investigators note that these phenomena often intensify during quiet periods, particularly at dusk or late evening, when environmental noise is minimal, making the house seem almost alive with sound. Visitors often describe the emotional impact of their experiences as profound. The combination of music, whispers, and the palpable presence of the past can evoke a deep sense of nostalgia, melancholy, or reverence. Some feel a connection to the people who once occupied the house, as though the echoes of their lives are reaching across time. Others report a sense of unease, a realization that the building carries memories that cannot be fully explained or understood. The experience is immersive, drawing attention to the smallest details: the flicker of a shadow, the subtle movement of a curtain, the distant echo of a note, and amplifying the impression that the plantation itself is an active participant in the haunting. Even during daylight hours, Harrietta Plantation carries a quiet, reflective energy. The sun illuminates the faded walls, overgrown pathways, and ancient trees, casting long shadows that shift with the movement of time. Yet the sense of lingering presence remains. Guests report a subtle awareness of being observed, a faint whisper in the distance, or a sense of expectancy, as though the music could begin at any moment. The haunting is not confined to night alone. It is woven into the very fabric of the property, existing as an enduring reminder of the lives that shaped it. Ultimately, Harrietta Plantation is more than a historical estate. It is a place where memory, emotion, and the unexplained converge, creating an environment that is both beautiful and unsettling. The drifting music and whispered hymns offer visitors a rare encounter with a past that refuses to remain silent, a haunting that speaks of joy, sorrow, and the indelible marks left by those who came before. For those who walk its grounds and enter its halls, Harrietta provides an experience that is hauntingly vivid, a reminder that some echoes of history never truly fade. Mansfield Plantation, located near Georgetown, South Carolina, is a site where history and the supernatural intertwine, leaving a haunting impression on those who visit. Once a thriving estate with sprawling fields and a busy riverfront, the plantation now carries the weight of centuries, its grounds marked by ancient trees, overgrown paths, and the remnants of long-abandoned buildings. While the estate attracts visitors for its historical significance, it is the chilling reports of ghostly activity that have made Mansfield one of the most notorious haunted plantations in the state. From the sound of phantom wagon wheels to spectral figures appearing along the riverbank, the plantation offers experiences that blur the line between the past and the present. Visitors frequently report hearing the unmistakable sound of wagon wheels and hoofbeats after dark, The noises often start faintly in the distance, growing louder as though a carriage or horse-drawn wagon is approaching. Many describe the rhythm as steady and deliberate, the wheels creaking in perfect cadence with the hooves striking the earth. Guests attempting to locate the source of the sounds are often met with empty fields or the quiet riverbanks, with no sign of horses, wagons, or people. The effect is uncanny, leaving witnesses with the sense that they are hearing echoes of a past life replaying itself for an unseen audience. Some speculate that the sounds are residual hauntings, impressions left behind by the estate's working horses and carriages during its peak. Others suggest that the noises represent the spirits of travelers or workers tied to the land, forever walking the paths they once knew. Alongside these auditory phenomena, Mansfield Plantation is known for visual apparitions, particularly along the riverbank. Guests recount seeing phantom figures appear in the misty darkness, their forms partially obscured by fog or the shadows of the trees. These figures are often described as human-shaped but fleeting, vanishing the moment observers attempt to approach. Some appear as laborers carrying tools or baskets, while others resemble well-dressed travelers from centuries past, moving with purpose along the water's edge. Witnesses often report a sense of familiarity, as if the figures are reenacting scenes from the plantation's storied past, their presence both eerie and oddly poignant. The combination of sight and sound creates an immersive, unsettling experience, drawing visitors into a world where time seems to loop back upon itself. The plantation's environment amplifies the haunting. Overgrown fields, ancient live oaks, and winding pathways create a landscape where shadows stretch and shift unpredictably. The river itself adds to the atmosphere, its reflective surface catching moonlight and mist, making movements along the banks appear almost spectral. At night, the sounds of wildlife, frogs, owls, and the rustle of leaves intertwine with the distant creak of phantom wagon wheels and the faint slap of hoofbeats, creating a soundscape that is both natural and disturbingly otherworldly. Guests frequently report a sensation of being observed, as though unseen eyes follow their every movement, heightening the tension with every step along the grounds. Local lore surrounding Mansfield Plantation ties these hauntings to its rich and complex history. Like many low-country estates, Mansfield was a place of both wealth and hardship. The plantation relied on the labor of enslaved workers who toiled in the fields and along the river, as well as the movements of horses and wagons that carried goods and provisions. Some believe the sounds of wagon wheels and hoofbeats are echoes of these long-past labors, preserved in the energy of the land. The phantom figures along the riverbank may represent those who lived and worked on the plantation, replaying fragments of their daily routines or appearing to observers as a reminder of the estate's layered history. The haunting serves as a bridge between past and present, a way for the plantation's story to remain alive. Photographers and paranormal investigators have documented unusual phenomena at Mansfield Plantation. Some images capture faint, human-like shapes along the river or near the old pathways, while audio recordings have picked up the distant creak of wheels, the slap of hooves, and other unidentifiable sounds. Investigators report sudden drops in temperature, a feeling of pressure in certain areas, and fleeting glimpses of shadows that vanish as quickly as they appear. These experiences are often reported consistently, regardless of time of year or visitor, lending credibility to the notion that Mansfield's hauntings are enduring rather than coincidental. Visitors often describe a profound emotional response to the plantation's supernatural activity. The combination of sound, sight, and the palpable presence of history creates a unique atmosphere. Many experience a mix of awe, fear, and respect, sensing that they are witnessing not simply illusions, but fragments of the lives that once animated the estate. Walks along the riverbank, under the shadow of moss-draped oaks, can become deeply immersive experiences, where every sound and movement seems laden with meaning, and where the past feels dangerously close. Even during daylight hours, the plantation retains a quiet, reflective power. The ruins, old pathways, and ancient trees speak to centuries of life and labor. And while the phantom figures and sounds are more elusive in daylight, The sense of history lingering in the air is unmistakable. Visitors often leave with memories of shadowed figures, distant wheels, and the haunting rhythm of unseen hoofbeats. A reminder that Mansfield Plantation is a place where the past is never truly gone. The sound of wagon wheels, the slap of phantom hooves, and the appearance of spectral figures along the riverbank create an environment where history asserts itself in mysterious and powerful ways. Those who walk its grounds are not merely observers, they are participants in a haunting that continues to unfold, bridging the gap between past and present, and leaving an indelible mark on all who experience it. Whitehall Plantation, located in Colleton County, South Carolina, is a place where the past lingers in subtle yet unsettling ways. Once a thriving estate surrounded by sprawling fields, dense forests, and winding creeks, the plantation now stands as a quiet testament to a bygone era. Though much of its original structures remain intact, it is the unexplained occurrences reported by visitors that have given Whitehall its reputation as a haunted site. Witnesses consistently describe ghostly voices calling from the fields, along with fleeting shadows that seem to move along fences and pathways, whispering words that no one alive can comprehend. Visitors walking the plantation grounds often report hearing voices drifting across the fields. These sounds are described as distant but clear, soft murmurs that carry on the wind, sometimes rising in pitch as though growing nearer. Some insist the voices resemble conversations, fragments of sentences, or single words spoken in a tone that is urgent, yet impossible to understand. The sounds appear to have no source, emanating from open fields, empty barns, or along the fence lines. Guests who attempt to approach or call back often find the voices abruptly stop, leaving only the faint rustle of leaves or the hum of crickets to fill the silence. The effect is disorienting and chilling, creating an atmosphere in which the ordinary sounds of the night are amplified and transformed into something uncanny. In addition to the voices, witnesses frequently describe shadowy figures pacing along the fences and pathways. These shadows are human-shaped but insubstantial, appearing to glide just above the ground or shift unnaturally from place to place. Some move alone, while others seem to follow an invisible rhythm, as if performing a ritual or reenacting a scene from the plantation's past. Observers often feel a subtle pressure in the air or the sensation of eyes watching them from just beyond sight. The shadows vanish quickly when approached, leaving only an impression of movement and the lingering sense of being followed. The plantation's environment contributes heavily to its haunting. Tall grasses and overgrown fields stretch along old fence lines, creating corridors of shadow and light where movement can easily be misperceived. Ancient trees with sprawling branches form dense canopies, casting shifting silhouettes across pathways as the wind moves. Even in daylight, the interplay of sunlight and shadow gives the estate a mysterious quality. But at night, the fields and fences take on an almost otherworldly atmosphere. The combination of auditory and visual phenomena leaves visitors feeling both intrigued and unnerved, as if the land itself carries memories that refuse to remain silent. Local lore ties the phenomena to Whitehall's long history. Like many plantations in the Low Country, the estate was a site of intense labor and human struggle, where enslaved workers and their families toiled under harsh conditions. Some suggest that the voices and shadows are residual echoes of these lives, energies left imprinted on the land and replaying in a continuous loop. Others believe the hauntings represent a more conscious present spirits who linger on the property, watching over the fields and repeating fragments of language or song from generations long past. The ambiguity of the phenomena contributes to the plantation's mystique, allowing each visitor to interpret the events through their own perception and imagination. Photographers and paranormal investigators have documented unusual occurrences at Whitehall. Audio recordings often reveal murmurs or whispers that were inaudible at the time of filming, sometimes corresponding to phrases described by visitors. Investigators also report sudden drops in temperature, brief gusts of wind with no apparent source, and the sensation of unseen presences moving around them. Even skeptics often acknowledge the consistency of these reports. suggesting that there is something genuinely mysterious about the plantation. Visitors consistently report strong emotional responses to the haunting. The combination of ghostly voices, shadowy figures, and the palpable sense of history creates an atmosphere that is immersive and affecting. Some feel a profound sadness or nostalgia, as if glimpsing moments of life frozen in time. Others experience fear, especially when the shadows appear close, or when the voices rise unexpectedly from the fields. Many describe a lingering sense of connection to the plantation, as if the spirits are aware of their presence and choosing to acknowledge it in subtle, unnerving ways. Even during the day, Whitehall Plantation carries an undeniable energy. The sun illuminates the fields and fences, but the shadows and echoes of the past seem to linger just beneath the surface. Walks through the estate often reveal fleeting movements in the corner of the eye, the soft whisper of wind through the trees, or the feeling of being observed without explanation. The haunting is not confined to night. It is embedded in the land itself, a silent reminder of the lives and stories that shaped it. Ultimately, Whitehall Plantation is more than a historic site. It is a place where the past continues to assert itself. The ghostly voices calling from the fields and the shadows pacing along the fences remind visitors that the history of the estate is not confined to books or photographs. The land remembers. Every sound, every movement, and every whisper creates a connection to those who lived and labored there, leaving an indelible impression on anyone who walks its grounds. Whitehall is a place where memory and presence converge, offering a hauntingly vivid encounter with the echoes of the past. Arcadia Plantation, nestled near Georgetown, South Carolina, is a place where history and the unexplained intertwine, leaving an indelible mark on all who visit. Once a sprawling estate of cultivated fields, stately buildings, and bustling life, Arcadia now stands in partial ruin, its structures weathered by time and neglect. Despite its crumbling walls and overgrown grounds, the plantation seems far from abandoned. Those who walk its paths after dark report eerie whispers that drift through the ruins, giving the sense that the estate itself is alive with memory and lingering spirits. The phenomenon is both subtle and deeply unsettling, leaving an impression that cannot easily be shaken. Visitors often describe the experience as a progression from quiet curiosity to an intense awareness of the unseen. At first, the wind through the trees or the rustle of leaves may seem ordinary, but as one moves deeper into the grounds, the whispers become discernible, soft at first, then clearer, as if voices are carried on the night air. Some say the whispers form fragmented words, barely intelligible, while others hear full sentences, sometimes in the cadence of long-forgotten speech. The voices seem to have a purpose or intent, though their message remains mysterious. They rise and fall unpredictably, coming from different corners of the ruins, always creating the unsettling sense that the plantation is aware of those who wander its grounds. In addition to the whispers, Arcadia is known for its occasional chanting and crying. Some visitors report hearing low, rhythmic chants echoing across the fields, the sound rising from the ruins like a spectral ritual frozen in time. Others recount moments when the whispers shift into soft cries, echoing pain or sorrow, as though the voices are replaying tragic moments from the plantation's history. The combination of chanting and crying produces a layered soundscape, immersive and chilling, where the living are reminded that the past lingers, sometimes in ways that demand attention. The plantation's physical environment amplifies these experiences. Overgrown pathways, broken fences, and crumbling structures create natural corridors that carry sound in strange and unexpected ways. Fog often drifts across the fields at night, weaving through the ruins and adding an ethereal quality to the landscape. Shadows stretch and twist under the moonlight, creating fleeting shapes that vanish when observed directly. Each creaking floorboard, rustling leaf, or shifting shadow contributes to the heightened awareness of visitors, making the whispers feel immediate and present. Many describe the experience as disorienting, a sensation that the boundaries between past and present have blurred. Local lore suggests that the haunting at Arcadia is connected to the plantation's long and complex history. Like many estates in the region, it was a place of both wealth and labor, with generations of families, enslaved workers, and other residents shaping its story. Some believe the whispers and cries are residual echoes of these lives, memories imprinted on the land and replaying endlessly. Others suggest that the plantation is home to conscious spirits, bound to the property by unfinished business or a need to be remembered. The ambiguity of these hauntings adds to Arcadia's mystique, allowing visitors to interpret the phenomena in ways that resonate with their own perceptions and fears. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous anomalies at Arcadia Plantation. Audio recordings often capture faint whispers, chants, or cries that were not audible at the time of recording. Investigators also note sudden drops in temperature, the sensation of unseen presences brushing past, and subtle pressure in certain parts of the property. Even skeptics often acknowledge that the combination of sounds, sights, and sensations at Arcadia defies conventional explanation, suggesting a haunting that is enduring and powerful. Visitors consistently report a strong emotional response when experiencing the hauntings. The whispers, chants, and cries evoke a mixture of fear, sorrow, and reverence. Many describe moments of awe, feeling that they are witnessing remnants of lives long past, frozen in echoes that continue to play out across the ruins. Others report an instinctive urge to leave, driven by the weight of presence and the subtle sense that the plantation itself is watching, responding to each movement and sound. The combination of auditory and visual phenomena creates a fully immersive experience, one that lingers in memory long after the visit ends. Even during the day, Arcadia Plantation retains a palpable sense of history and presence. Sunlight illuminates the ruins, casting long shadows and revealing the textures of decayed walls and overgrown pathways. Yet the whispers and cries, though less pronounced in daylight, seem to linger in the corners of perception. Many visitors report a quiet tension, a feeling that the estate has stories to tell that cannot be ignored. The haunting is not confined to the night. It is woven into the very fabric of the land, echoing through time and space alike. Ultimately, Arcadia Plantation is more than a historical site. It is a place where memory, sorrow, and lingering energy converge, creating an atmosphere that is hauntingly vivid. The whispers, chants, and cries serve as reminders that the past never fully departs, that the lives, labors, and experiences of generations continue to resonate across the grounds. For those who walk its fields and wander its ruins, Arcadia offers an experience that is both eerie and profound, a haunting encounter with a past that refuses to rest, always present, always unsettling. And there you have it, the 25 most haunted plantations in South Carolina, where the night itself seems to whisper of the past. Each place carries echoes of history that refuse to fade. Footsteps, voices, lantern lights, and apparitions reminding us that time leaves its mark not only on walls and earth, but in the very air. If you ever find yourself beneath the moss-draped oaks of South Carolina, listen carefully. The whispers may find you. Thank you for joining me tonight, my dear friends of the dark. Until our next journey into the haunted unknown, keep your lights dim, your doors locked, and your ears open, for the night is always whispering.